State would be 11-0. Michigan might be undefeated, or they might be 6-5, and they would beat Ohio State even in Columbus. They were the only team to knock off Will Howard, I believe, in their championship year. But I can't remember a team that came out and just socked somebody in the mouth like that. And yes, there was a comeback from Ohio State, but I thought Miami really weathered the storm. There was that moment early on in the second half where Ohio State comes out, they get the touchdown, and you think, okay, they needed to see points on the board.
When it got to 17-14, here they come.
And Miami wasn't doing much offensively at that point, but then there was the drive where it didn't result in points, but I thought it put Ohio State in a really, really bad spot. They had the touchdown to Jeremiah Smith. You could tell the crowd was shifting a little bit, and what Miami did is what a lot of teams, I feel, aim to do in each and every one of these spots. Of course, the goal, any dummy can say, well, you want to score. You want to go down and respond with a touchdown after giving up one. But I feel the realistic goal against a defense like Ohio State was, let's pick up a few first downs, flip the field. Our defense has scored a touchdown tonight. They have been good, not as good in the second half, but let's make them go 90 yards to win the game. Worst case scenario, they tie it and send it to overtime, but we're going to be putting our defense back out there to win the game.
Or make them go 50. If you get a field goal, make them go. Yeah,
you have to move the ball.
Yeah, if you're going to punt the ball, at least you make them go 50 yards to get in the field goal range.
Yeah, and Miami's defense, that's been their calling card. They went out in the offseason and got Carson Beck in the portal. Early on in the year, there was some controversy of it was after the loss to Louisville, I believe. He's blaming his receivers and stuff, and then he kind of walked it back a little bit, and I thought made an excuse for it. But he's stepped up a few times in these first two games. Now they've scored 34 points, and the defense was responsible for basically 14 of them. You had the pick six, then they had the turnover on downs, where then they just were able to punch it in rather quickly. To me, Miami is a team now where I'm not sure if it's I'm putting a bunch of confidence in them to pull off more upsets because they've already done it twice, or eventually you just run out of gas playing 3 games where you might be playing someone who's only coming off their first game.
Well, right now they're the 10 seed against the 6, and they're favored.
Yeah,
the line's 3.5 for Miami. So the bettors, at least we'll see when we hear from Fat Jack and talk about these games. But the bettors are buying in that this is just a team that kind of was underseeded. It's so funny that we so much. Discussion before the playoff field was announced whether Miami is going to be able to make it in, and now they're one win away from playing the national championship game and favored.
It's crazy to think about.
And I think we all saw Miami and Ole Miss, advancing going into this weekend, right?
And I can't wait to talk about that Ole Miss Georgia game because that was my favorite game of the weekend. Miami and Ohio State. It was great to see. Maybe you don't like Miami, but I know a lot of people don't like Ohio State and didn't want to see them repeat. Yeah. Also, it's A&M had the same thing happen to them, but Ohio State's a little bit different. Like A&M was 11-0, they lost to Texas, then they get bounced in the first round of the college football playoffs at home. Ohio State, you're 11-0, or you're 12-0 actually, and then you lose to Indiana in the Big Ten championship. You still get the bye, and then you lose to Miami. So you end your year on a 2-game losing streak. One against a team you probably felt you were much better than, but tip my cap to Miami. There was all the talk of, do you let Notre Dame in? Do you let Miami in? And Miami, just being in the ACC, which was a conference that let a lot of people down, I would say. Yeah. You go in there and beat a team in the SEC, and then you beat the reigning champ and the top dog, or the second top dog out of the Big Ten, because Indiana was the champion. I'll give them my flowers there. That was a remarkable performance, and we know Michael Irvin was all kinds of pumped up about it after the game.
Can they get after the passer? They just crushed Ohio State's front line with their pass rush.
I watched
and Reuben Bain in particular, which is a guy that obviously a lot of Chiefs fans have their eye on. But it wasn't just him. But my goodness, they just shattered their offensive front.
And I was talking to a buddy about that game ago. It's not easy at all to make Ohio State. And Ohio State's offensive line just looks like an NFL offensive line, the size they have, the strength. And No, I had circled Ruben Bain. One of the main reasons I wanted to watch this, other than it being a college football playoff game, oh boy, I might have changed my tune now on really wanting Ruben Bain if he's there.
Forget the measurables. You just watch him play.
That dude is a freak.
Watch him play. He's the one guy. We spent a lot of time talking about George Karlaftis earlier this week and about the kind of pass rushers you get at 30, guys who will maybe outwork you but can't on their own just win. The guys you get up at 8 and 9 are guys who don't have to have everything go right. They can just destroy your protection.
Yes,
with just their physical gifts. That's who Ruben Bain is. And
but he's got short arms, Kate. Yeah, no way they take him.
He's got short arms. I hope that wouldn't be the reason. If they go running back, fine. But I have I think watching the last 2 games of him, and particularly the night, makes me think, all right, maybe that's the way to go.
If it's not him,
back somewhere else.
If it's not him, it's the guy I'm going to talk about now, in David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech laid an egg against Oregon, and I thought that is a really, really bad look for the Big 12. The Big 12, they send Arizona State last year, who gives us a thriller against Texas. Now, it looked a lot like the Oregon Tech game last year early on. I mean, Texas was kind of pushing Arizona State around, and then they have this remarkable comeback. They fall in overtime. Texas Tech never had a shot, and Texas Tech did that to everyone in the Big 12 except for Arizona State. It was because Baron Morton was out. Oregon is known to light up the scoreboard. They are the team to go hang 50 on you, and I thought it was a great matchup because you get a team that can put up 50, you got a team that can shut you out. And the fact that Tech was never once in that game, it's alarming to me for the Big 12 because I can't recall a Big 12 team that dominant in a long, long time. And Oregon, who didn't even win the Big 10, they were the 3rd team.
Yeah.
That behind Indiana and Ohio State, they humiliated them, but I'll give them this. David Bailey looked damn good. And I love the fact that he's got no gloves and no sleeves, no nothing, and just wrecks you. If it's not Ruben Bain, Kurtis, I might have to go with David Bailey there.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. If Bain is gone, I would, and Love is there, I would still be tempted to go Love, but they're different types of edge rushers. But
Bailey's not a Spags edge rusher because he's smaller, but he's a speed rusher, and he reminds me a lot. He might even be a little bit more explosive than Nick Bonito was in college. But when I watch Nick Bonito play for the Broncos, it's electric.
That's a good comp.
I would love to see a speed rusher in Kansas City if it's not Ruben Bain, because Ruben Bain's the 3rd overall prospect, #1 edge rusher. If he's there, it's Ruben Bain.
I think there's a lot of these mocks you see guys that are at 8 or 9 or 10, maybe even later. You look at it and you're like he's not going to be there at 8 or 9 or 10. And I don't think Ruben Bain's going to be there when the Chiefs.
I don't think so either.
Because particularly if he keeps doing this, if he does this another game and he's playing a national championship, he's not going 9.
No.
If he wrecks
Ole
Miss,
go top 5.
If he wrecks Ole Miss and has a nice showing in the championship game, he ain't there at 9. And then you're probably Bailey or Love.
Yeah. And that's just where it comes down to. Are you making that top 10 selection and a guy like David Bailey who is probably, if you don't take him there, if you go Jeremiah Love, I bet David Bailey gets taken right before 15. Like he would probably fall a couple picks just based off positional need for some of those teams. But watching those two this weekend, I mean, it's different. And David Bailey leads all of college football in sacks, so that's what he's got over Ruben Bain. And when I watched him play against K-State, or he might have been. I don't remember if he was injured at any point in the season, but I remember him playing against Kansas, and I definitely remember watching nearly every snap of this Texas Tech-Oregon game, and it's just viciousness. It is so quick off the ball. There was a play maybe late first quarter, and it's all out there on Twitter, where it's just, I mean, he destroys
there's a nice
the right tackle.
There's a nice little cut-up of him.
He mauls. I mean, he got to Moore within seconds.
Yeah.
And you put that on an NFL defensive line. If you got Chris Jones back to where you need him to be playing and that guy's coming off the edge and Karlaftis, kind of goes back to that 2022, 2023 form, I feel totally different about the defensive line. I really do. But that was, from a Texas Tech standpoint, that was the only entertaining part about that football game to me. Oregon just methodically kicked their ass. It was one of the where they had him at arm's length the entire time. And the way Tech bludgeoned, curb stomped, blasted every Big 12 opponent while Baron Morton was playing, they did it to BYU twice.
Mm-hmm.
They were fourth in the country. And I feel, truthfully, it is not great at all for the Big 12 that one of the most dominant teams you've sent just got humiliated by the third team in the Big 10. Oregon was my preseason pick to win the national championship, so I'm not going to act like there's some Cinderella underdog story, but my goodness.
They were one spot behind Texas Tech in the seeding.
You give Dan Lanning any sort of disrespect, that team knows how to play with fuel.
That's for sure.
That was an ass kicking. I cannot wait
to watch these two semifinal games next week.
It's a great storyline. Yeah. All of them. Every game is a great storyline, and that leads us to, finally, Ole Miss and Georgia. Ole Miss's story over the last month to a month and a half has been one of the wildest I've seen in college football.
Yeah.
A guy that, when asked about it, I said, I don't know why Lane Kiffin would leave. I know LSU is an enticing job, but they'll build him a statue at Ole Miss. They're better than LSU right now. You are so embraced. And he had the E60, documentary where he talked about how Oxford basically saved him, and he was no longer drinking. He's found himself through hot yoga and this, and Lane Kiffin had reinvented himself, and Ole Miss didn't become the powerhouse of the SEC because they're not there quite yet, but a 10 coming off their best season in program history, you're going to the college football playoffs, and then it's this whole whirlwind of, is he really going to leave? Is he going to take the Florida job, the LSU job? And then he takes it, and it turns into, not actual riots in Oxford, but it was, people lining up outside the airport, booing him, screaming at him as he's getting on the plane. He does an interview, which that just felt Lane Kiffin at its best, where he's just right there on the tarmac. He's getting interviewed while the whole crowd is behind him, booing and yelling things at him. And you know what? I don't believe it bothered him one bit at all. But he leaves, and the assistant spot, that's why I give Ole Miss a lot of credit. If you're an OC or a DC and you're approached with the job, right, and especially for a team like Ole Miss who, go into the college football playoffs, there are worse jobs to have out there. That's a very good job. But the way it was taken, and it's, you can, don't let the door hit you on the way out. We still have a chance. Everybody thinks because you leave that this team is going to get bounced in their first game. It's going to be ugly. Man, Ole Miss has looked damn good in these two games. And to do that to Georgia, where I thought the failed fire drill at the end of half, I thought that was this is where Georgia and Kirby Smart usually sink their teeth in, and they kill their opponent. They have for years. And Ole Miss and that offense, that is the most fun offense to watch in college football. And if they get it done, that's my favorite storyline of this college football playoff, even over Indiana, to be honest with you, which we skipped over.
Yeah.
They bludgeoned.
They've been a heavy for a little bit. The Kurt Signetti thing is just absurd. That 2018, he was a 57-year-old coach of.
He's at Elon, and
he was
James
a
7-5
record at Elon. Now he's,
dominating college football,
crushing everything in sight. When they got down to Georgia with the ball first and goal, you're like, oh, man, Ole Miss did everything in that little end of the half. Then they get the hold, and just the pass, it kind of sets them up. And it's just like, what an amazing strength, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess just poise from that quarterback and that whole offensive team. And they got a great coordinator. But, Pete Golding got a pretty good chance
I'm a huge fan
of coaching in a national championship game before Lane Kiffin does. And the only sad part is that Kiffin got extra $500K last night because they wrote that in that he'd get the share if they got there, which is annoying.
It's annoying to everybody but Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
I will say this will be interesting to watch next year, whether Ole Miss wins it all or they don't, because Lane Kiffin will be able to tell people, well, they won. They took my team. They took my team, the players that I recruited, or for the most part. I mean, these OCs and these DCs, they do a lot of work in recruiting as well. But I am such a fan of Pete Golding and what he has been able to do with this team. It's a loaded roster, but to get those kids ready to go for the playoff and say this is not because he's leaving, it does not mean we don't have a chance. And you talk about being one hell of a coach. Ole Miss looks like they picked right. What I'm interested in following is next year how that season begins for both LSU and Ole Miss.
And what we don't know is can he get players?
Yes, and that's going to be the other part of this.
That's less about the coach now than it used to be because of NIL. Still has something to do with it. I mean, certain coaches have better ability to acquire funds, but it isn't about just hey, I could go into a room and sell them on Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Now you just go, here's a boatload of money. Come to Oxford.
Yes.
So we'll see if they can continue to get the kind of talent that has put them here. But these two dog games, obviously, but the other two I thought were interesting and sets up an amazing semifinal.
It does.
Both favorites are favored by 3.5, so we expect some good games. And the part of the last thing on this, the part of the narrative has been, as it was a year ago, that the teams that got the byes, were they rusty? Well, the teams that beat them, Oregon, let's see, Miami, and Ole Miss, three of those, the three teams that won, they didn't play in their conference championship game. Mm-hmm. So they've had just as much time off as the teams that were on byes, although they did play last week. So
the ACC, the fact Duke won the ACC, and you're going, well, where was Miami? It just, the conference records, man, in college football, they get you. And
what I meant to say is that those teams had the same amount of time off before they played their first game.
You got a little extra rest they needed.
Around earlier. But they didn't. It wasn't like they weren't rusty. I mean, Oregon wasn't rusty against James Madison. Ole Miss wasn't rusty against Tulane.
No.
Maybe you look at the level of opposition, but Miami wasn't rusty against A&M. They had the same time off that Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech did. So I don't know if you can pile that, but it is interesting that it's 1-7. Last year I thought it was because the teams that got the byes were clearly not the best four teams. You get Boise State, because three of them were dogs, and two of them were double-digit dogs, as the higher-seeded team. This year was a little more four heavies. Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech were heavies. Those other three games the three upsets weren't supposed to happen, at least not to that level.
The last one I do want to touch on here before we hit our first break of hour number one, I had teased before our college football playoff talk, Indiana, Alabama. That game has changed college football for me. Because my entire life, and Kyle's life, Alabama has been the dynasty of college football. And even with Nick Saban retiring, Kalen DeBoer taking over, there's still that aura about Alabama. There's still that intensity about Alabama. The name, the Crimson Tide, Tuscaloosa. And Indiana was a team last year that was dominating until they didn't dominate anymore. They got smoked by Ohio State and Columbus, and they go to play Notre Dame in the first round of the college football playoffs, and they get beat pretty good as well. And you thought, well, that's going to be the story of Curt Cignetti. He can beat up on bad teams, and then when he gets challenged, he's not going to be able to do it. But then this year he goes into Eugene. They beat Oregon, and I thought he was pretty cocky last year, and you could push back with they're not playing it. They got the softest Big Ten schedule you could possibly have. But then he's got so many lines now with when he's asked when they go into Happy Valley and play Penn State. Now it was after they'd fired James Franklin, and he gets asked in the pregame interview, your Indiana's never come in here and won. And he said, well, this team's never come in here.
Yeah.
And it's just these one-liners that he gives.
Yep.
That is just, he's backing up with winning.
Starting with, I win.
It's Google simple, I win.
That type of thing. The one thing I will say on this, and then we're absolutely taking a break, is it's being portrayed in a lot of parts as like David slayed Goliath. That's really not the case.
No.
I mean, in Alabama still has the name, but Indiana's the number one team in the country, and we're a damn near 7-point favorite. Now, the margin is striking, but right now Indiana's the Goliath for this season.
By a long way,
The idea that victory was won for the little guys. The whole season's been won for the little guys. What happened on Saturday was a team that is clearly superior to the other team did what that happens oftentimes in those situations. I do think it seems pretty clear that the SEC is the Big Ten is now past the SEC. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, hate to see that to Alabama." Those, that's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
So
it's strange to me because I felt that the feeling around Alabama football changed yesterday. I feel it really did. I thought when they beat Oklahoma, it was that never count out the Crimson Tide. I don't care that Nick Saban's there. And I was talking to somebody over the weekend of this, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking Alabama, like just Indiana straight up, money line. I wouldn't feel that comfortable because it's still Alabama and they have that name. To me, that died yesterday because Nick Saban would never lose to any ranked opponent like that on that stage. No. 35 points. I mean, Indiana, if you're picking anybody else to win it all, I would love to hear reasons. I really would. But Indiana has been so freakishly dominant all year long. They've had close calls, but to go in Eugene and beat Oregon at Autzen Stadium the way they did, that's what won me over this year, and that was a long time ago.
Well, they got one of the 2 or 3 best defenses in the country, and their quarterback's Heisman winner.
Yeah, and he doesn't make mistakes.
That's about all you need to know about how legit Indiana is, and their coach can clearly X and O it as well. Their coordinators are fantastic.
Phenomenal coach, phenomenal coordinators, smart QB, and they're rolling right now as they roll over the Crimson Tide in their first game.
Only a 3.5-point favorite against Oregon.
Oh, man.
Interesting.
A rematch. And Dan Lanning is showing the Ducks the film of that game and every sort of criticism that came their way after it. It's going to be beautiful, beautiful college football semifinal matchup. And
you hear the games right here on Sports Radio 810.
Sports Radio 810 is going to bring you all of those games. But for us, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, stay with college football real quickly. Going to touch on the Andy Kotelnicki news coming out of Lawrence. You're listening to the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The program with Soren Petro.
Hooray for Grunny! Hooray at last! Hooray for Grunny! He's a horse's ass.
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, listen up. One more week of NFL regular season football. You can unwrap some action with Underdog. That's right. Download the Underdog app today. Use the promo code SOREN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code SOREN, S-O-R-E-N. Listen, Underdog makes it super easy. You can make entries, win money right now in Missouri. In fact, you can even win up to 5,000 times your cash. But you got to download that app. So do it. Use that promo code SOREN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code SOREN. It's just real simple. You pick your favorite players and then decide whether they'll go higher or lower on any stats. Rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, passing yards, you name it, they're all there. Like one of the games I'm looking at, of course, the Chiefs and Raiders. Chris Oladokun hasn't really thrown for much. Nobody's expecting anything. That's why I'm going higher. The Raiders are god-awful. Oladokun in the passing game takes a step forward. I'm going higher than 139.5 on Oladokun's passing yards. And another backup quarterback, Trey Lance. I'm a believer in Jim Harbaugh. So I think the Chargers start Trey Lance. They're going to start him. And I think he's going to do a better job than people think. So I'm going higher on the 172.5 passing yards. It's just that easy, but you got to have the app. So download the Underdog app today. Use that promo code SOREN. Score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, promo code SOREN at Underdog. Make plays, win money.
Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Wouldn't you like to take a vacation from your bills? Well, you can. With credit card balances at an all-time high and Golden Oak's 4.5% rate, you could be saving thousands of dollars after a simple phone call. Call today and get your cash in as little as 14 days and make no payments for 2 months. Call 913-890-GOLD.
Golden Oak Landing, cured my blues.
5.442 APR, FHA 15-year, 20% equity, qualified credit, additional terms apply. NMLS 114937.
Back here on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Soren Petro for the final time this week. Kurtis Seaboldt sitting across from me. Kyle Collier is producing this thing behind the glass.
Mm-hmm.
There was some local news breaking this morning, and I'll be up front that I didn't think it was going to be possible. But Andy Kotelnicki, former offensive coordinator for the Kansas Jayhawks, is returning to be the associate head coach. The tweet earlier came from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports that he is returning for that title, and I feel we can all speculate that he is going to get the say in this offense and play calling and probably will have a huge hand in recruiting because you're an OC, as we were just talking about in our previous segment for the college football playoffs. You're the OC, you recruit what players you want, who is going to better your offense, best fit that scheme. And Andy Kotelnicki, who was at Penn State, of course, he had left KU a few years back. KU hired Jeff Grimes, didn't go well. Last year, felt that with Matt Lubick and Jim Zabrowski, the co-offensive coordinators and the quarterback coach for Jalen Daniels, it was going to look like Kotelnicki's offense. Few games it did. Turns out that was more so of the competition they were playing, because once it got into crunch time, that offense could not move the football. And they had a guy in Jalen Daniels who was on his 6th year with the program.
And often played like he was in his first year.
Yes. You saw some mistakes, including in his final game, that it looked like the 17-year-old true freshman Jalen Daniels that started games for Les Miles. But Kotelnicki coming back, I know there was all the news about KU losing guys in the portal, and that continues to happen today. Joseph Sipp, who redshirted, he was the linebacker get from Bowling Green last year, was All-MAC, I believe. They also lost Trey Lathan, who came over from West Virginia. They're going to have to reload this roster a little bit, but you feel better that a guy like Andy Kotelnicki is coming back to man this offense. Because I just go to 2023, the last time KU made a bowl game, they won 9 games. They lose Jalen Daniels 4 games into the season. Jason Bean comes in, and it's an offense that can light it up. They go and beat Oklahoma with Jason Bean as their quarterback. They go to Ames and beat Iowa State at Jack Trice Stadium at night. Even against K-State, though it was yet another loss in that losing streak, Cole Ballard, who is still on the team and very well could be the starting quarterback, at the time, a true freshman walk-on quarterback goes in there, and they led K-State by 11 points. It was 27-16, I believe, like midway through the third quarter. Now, a loss is a loss. You're not putting moral victories into that. But the offense wasn't the issue in that game, and that was with a true freshman walk-on quarterback getting the majority of these play calls and not just handing the ball off to Devin Neal. He had to make some throws, and
he did.
And Andy Kotelnicki was a big reason that was possible. And so now
you saw what people who the term is high school wide open.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of that when he was there.
Yes, and it was it's complex. It is a very complicated offense, but if you pick it up, it's what turned KU's offense from a disastrous dumpster fire into one that could put 40-plus on, Power 4 opponents. Mm-hmm. And if they can get back to that, here's the good news for Kansas with losing all these guys in the portal. Quarterback might not need to be one you invest in. And hear me out on this. Zeke Marshall, who was this team's, basically design quarterback run guy this past year. You bring him in, and he's explosive, very quick. Smaller guy like Jalen Daniels, more 6 foot than 6'3" or 6'4". Lightning quick. Andy Kotelnicki recruited him to Kansas to be the quarterback to run this offense, likely post Jalen Daniels, which here we are. Mm-hmm. I thought there's always a chance. With backup quarterbacks, you never know. They could always hit the portal and find starting jobs elsewhere. But if you do that and then you build around it, I feel they're going to need another running back similar to Devin Neal, which is hard to replicate. But you need a true number 1 running back. If it were my money that I'm spending, I'm not putting everything at the feet of one of the top quarterbacks out there. I'm sticking with somebody that can run an Andy Kotelnicki offense, and that's somebody like Daniels, like Bean, that can run it. Cole Ballard can run too. He's just not as quick as Isaiah Marshall. So in building around that group, you feel better about what this team might look like. Now, here's what I'll also say. In bringing Andy Kotelnicki back, we haven't heard the numbers yet. I'm sure it wasn't cheap. Because to me, he took the Penn State job because it was an elevation. You were going to the Big Ten. You were going to one of the more prestigious college football programs in the country. And now with James Franklin getting fired, you're coming back to Kansas. It's from right now with Penn State hiring Matt Campbell, it is probably not a lateral move anymore because Penn State is still Penn State and Kansas has had back-to-back down years. But to hear it's an associate head coach role, I have just a feeling that he doesn't take this job unless these few reasons were going to be, a part of his deal. Number one, I get complete say of the offense. I'm not coming in here to collaborate with 2 or 3 other guys. I want it to be the way it was when I was first here. That's why I got the Penn State job. It's why Kansas, quite truthfully, was where they were 3 years ago. It was the offense. The defense was still well below average, but they could outscore a lot of teams. I mean, there were a number of games this year where Kansas was in it, and you went, man, if they had that 2023 offense, they win 3 or 4 of these games. I mean, they're able to close out in the fourth quarter because you have a high school wide open type offense. Yeah. But I feel it had to be complete say. And number 2, it had to be a higher role than just offensive coordinator. If I'm leaving Penn State, which he was already going to be, but if I'm coming back here, I'm not coming back to have the same role that I did. I need to have a step up, and I get a lot of say in what goes on with this program. The third part, I don't believe, and this is pure speculation, so take this if you want to. I feel he doesn't take this job unless there were discussions of you are going to be the head coach in waiting, and Lance Leipold is either done this year or after next year or 2 years down the road. Because this is a guy who's 45 years old. He probably wants a head coaching job at some point. What better way to do it than coming back to Lawrence? Now, coach with a guy you've been coaching for the entirety of your college coaching career. Light it up offensively, and whether you go 5-7, 6-6, or 9-4, you then are going to be that guy. And then you get to prove to everybody just how much of that turnaround was you, right? And I feel that those 3 things had to have been discussed a little bit. 2 of them, we know that has to be the case with a new title, an associate head coach. That's a step up from OC. And number 2, an associate head coach who is a brilliant play caller is just not going to collaborate. Like, there might be some collaborations as every staff has, but it's his word. He's going to be the guy calling the shots.
What those first 2 things tell me is that it might not have been a boatload of money. Hey, we can't pay you maybe what you were making at Penn State or what you'd like to make here, but we'll give you the autonomy and we'll give you the extra title. A lot that happens pretty frequently. As well, we can't give any money. We're going to throw a associate head coach on you in lieu of $1 million or something. So the first 2 things make me think that they didn't break the bank for this, because if you just give the guy money, he's not going to want as much of the other stuff. So we'll find out at some point, but that's my view on it. But I do agree that the first 2 things were absolutely essential. Yeah, and I could see the third one happening.
We'll have to see here, because it's kind of dumb to speculate on who the next head coach would be when that coach is still coaching. I mean, you can always be thinking about firings and promotions and this and that. But Andy Kotelnicki would probably have been the guy if Lance Leipold retired this year. You give Andy Kotelnicki a call and say, you have history here. You clearly have a job opening right now, or you're not going to be going back to that school. He probably would have been one of those calls. But KU had interest. I didn't really think it was going to be possible. I thought he was going to take a head coaching job elsewhere or go be an OC at one of those, top Power 5 schools of the major conferences. But he's coming back to Lawrence as the associate head coach and will have likely all of the responsibility in play calling. So that was the big news for Kansas football earlier this morning. We're going to take a quick break, come back, wrap up hour number 1 of the program. Back here on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Soren Petro. About 40 seconds here to tell you that it is official. Avery Johnson is returning to Kansas State, his senior year in Manhattan. And what better way to go out than with Colin Klein as your head coach?
Interesting. Bridging the two eras.
Yes.
Kidding.
It should be a lot of fun there. I mean,
he had unfinished business.
There really was no reason for Avery Johnson to leave. You get Colin Klein back. He was a big reason Avery Johnson was going to be able to get out in the field his freshman year. And K-State is going to not have to worry about looking for a quarterback in the portal. So great news coming out of Manhattan. Avery Johnson back for the Cats and Colin Klein. Danny Kleescale coming up next.
All right, Travis Kelce, one of 3 Chiefs to have 1,000 career receiving yards against the Raiders. Name the other 2. Nick and Jake's.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Hour number 2 of the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Soren Petro for the final time this week. Kurtis Seaboldt's here. Kyle Collier's producing. And as we always do in the 3 o'clock hour.
We always do
always do around this time. Danny Klingscale is joining us in studio. He's brought to you by Easton Roofing. Danny, how are we doing on this fine Friday?
We're doing just fine, and I'd like to take this time to remind you that I have a couple of points from Easton Roofing.
Yes.
They'd like to remind people that when it gets really cold, you need to turn your whole house humidifiers down so they don't have icicles growing in the attic, and if they don't get your gutters cleaned out, get to that before the snow and ice come, because that can lead to worse ice jams. And by the way, with that, if you're going to hire Easton to install gutter covers, you never have to clean your gutters out again. They'll clean your gutters out now for free before they install them. So there's a couple of great things from Easton Roofing, timely for the season, and just a great company. And of course, Joe's a friend of mine, and I can personally attest to their fine work at my house many, many times, including cleaning out my gutters, as a matter of fact, recently. So anyway, Easton Roofing, integrity matters, and I'm doing just great. Back from a vacation and raring to go. A little scratchy throat, but that's why you have Ricola.
Ricola.
By the way, is there? I don't like any throat lozenge.
Correct.
I will say that. None.
Yes.
I mean, Ricola is the best of a sorry lot, and it's not even really supposed to be therapeutic. It doesn't even claim on the package that it's like.
I mean, it's more than the Luden's cough drops, which is just candy. But
like mentholyptus tries to say that it's something, but I can't stand that. So anyway,
thing is, the stuff that makes it work is the stuff that makes it not pleasant. I think, for the most part.
Anyway, so I'm just fine. So Savannah, Georgia, and Hilton Head, South Carolina over the Christmas holidays, and it was wonderful. And you know, there are a lot of things I didn't have to pay attention to necessarily that much, like the Chiefs, but I did anyway. And had some 50-50 exciting college football so far. I think the amazing thing is how defensive-minded the success has been of. I mean, 5 of the 8 games, the losing team has scored 14 points or less. 3 teams have scored 0, and so defense is rearing its head in the playoffs. And we got 3 real exciting games, so I guess that's not a bad return.
Do you feel that it's an issue right now with the college football playoff bracket? That in the first round, you got teams like Tulane and James Madison that make it in, but they get annihilated in their first game. There were some people that complained that you have too many teams in there, that if you have one of those smaller teams, though might be 11-1, might be 12-0, they go on the road to an Oregon or an Ole Miss, they're going to get stomped, and that's always going to be the case unless you put it on the neutral site field. Or are you in the side of, I want it to be 12 teams, because I believe some of those teams that otherwise would never get a shot at a national championship at least get an opportunity to go on a Cinderella-type run in this bracket?
Well, it's really set up to only have one team in there, so it's the fault of the other teams that they didn't play well enough to be better ranking-wise than the second team. I mean, you're only, by rule, only one's supposed to get in, and I'm fine with one. If 2 gets in, that's on you because you didn't play any better. And right now it does seem that creates the opportunity for a really easy game, but that's okay, too, because the other team earned it. And one of these times, we'll probably get a team that rises up and creates a good Cinderella story. So I don't really have a big issue with it. If you're the 14th best team, if you're Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt went out and lost their bowl game. So I don't think it's – I like the 12. I don't think I want to go to 16, but I think they will. But 12's fine with me.
Last year, I noted that, I thought might be one of the waves of the future, that the teams who won the first round went on the road and all won, not on the road. They played a better seeded team, in that quarterfinal, and all 4 of them won. I thought, well, I think you're going to see a lot of national champions coming out of that 5 to 8 range because they do get to go in having played a game. They've got something under their saddle. They're little, maybe not as fresh physically, but they're ready to go. And then this year, but it happened again almost. The bye teams are now 1-7. The difference between this year and last year, I thought part of last year was that for the teams that got byes, 2 of them were Arizona State and Boise State, who you didn't think were going to really be. They weren't 2 of the 4 best teams, but they got the byes because of their conference championship. This year feels different. The 4 teams that got byes were heavies: Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech. This wasn't supposed to happen again, but it happened again. What's the value? Is there something about that setup to where those teams that play in that first round and win are always going to be a pretty good bet in the second round?
I think it's too soon. The games were generally expected to be close anyway. I think there is some advantage to playing a game, but I don't see where you should lose your touch that quickly. You got practice. It's not that long. It's 3 weeks or so. So I'm going to wait. I think if it's, I saw that on the 7th game was the first time somebody did win. And, Pat McAfee's going, well, I'm never going to pick her. And then he said, well, I like the team too much. And, Georgia clearly wasn't, I think, as good as Ole Miss on the day. So I think 2 years is just too short, too small a sample size. So I'm not going to make that much of it. I think it is. I do think it is. If would I rather play a game? I guess so. If you win it, you got to win the game first. So
yeah,
playing one less game's an advantage. So I don't care.
And I said that the dynamics were different last year. 3 of the 4. Lower seeded teams were favorites, and 2 of them were by double digits. So that was just kind of an odd mixture. This was, again, a different situation, but as you said, pretty small sample size still. What do you think of? I've been hearing a lot of this, and it's because a lot of Big 12 fans love to just say, well, the SEC, the Big 10, blah, 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 blah. How much weight should be put into the performance of an individual conference in any bowl or playoff season? I think there's probably more put into it than I think needs to be.
I think in the playoffs it's significant to judge it. I do. I think the Big Ten can stick their chest out right now. And the bowls, I think the bowls are just such a crapshoot now. There was one bowl yesterday where I think it was Arizona State had 16 starters sit out.
Yeah.
And they weren't there, or were gone, were in the portal, for whatever reason weren't playing. And the other team was pretty whole. Then you have a game like Iowa and Vanderbilt. Both teams wanted to be there. Every one of their seniors on each team was there. You can get a situation where that's, one team's like that and the other team's not. So that completely throws the significance of that game out. But the playoff games themselves, I think they're a pretty good litmus test. I think you can do a little judging of the conferences, and over time, though, still you're going to have to go give they put up a stat about from 2014 in the playoffs, and the SEC still was the dominant team in there, and then they've been the best conference. So I think it does play itself out that way. But other bowl games, I don't think it is any significance whatsoever.
I was hearing a fairly significant voice of people who were saying that Alabama was overrated because of the fact that Missouri, LSU, and Tennessee lost their bowl games, and I'm like, that doesn't. How does that mean anything?
No, I don't think you can judge anything about bowl games anymore.
No.
You can't take any knowledge or make any grand statements about Alabama's strength of schedule during the season because the bowl games are a completely different kettle of fish. You don't know who's playing.
And also, I think fans are sometimes you're so allotted to the conference of the team you root for that you look at a game. A lot of fans look at a game differently. I said this yesterday on Twitter. I said, how about we just watch the games and enjoy them, and not every result is a reflection of whether that team should have been in the playoff or not.
Also, who's invested in a conference anymore?
Yeah,
the conferences are all different every year.
Yeah,
and make no sense based off of
Yeah, and they're going to change again. There's going to be a new Pac-10 next year, and all different alignments are going to be there. The AAC is going to be different. It's different year to year. Who can really just have Big 12 fever?
Some people do.
I think Southeast Conference, okay, the bulk of the teams are, the same ones that have been there for a long time, and they've been the best for a while. So I can see some pride in that. And then Big 10, but it's expanded. Are you really going to take that all the credit for Oregon, who's been in your league for 2 years? That doesn't make any sense to me.
It'd be like the SEC taking credit for Texas.
Right.
How much of a stain was it for the Big 12 that a team like Texas Tech, who had just dominated everybody they played other than Arizona State, and that was because Baron Morton was injured in that game, and they still nearly pulled off the come-from-behind win. How bad is it for the Big 12 that in their showing after getting the bye, they don't even score and lose by 3 scores to a team like Oregon?
I think it looked bad. I don't think there's any way you can dress that up. Texas Tech creamed people almost all year with at times a backup quarterback or a damaged quarterback. And they were killing people, generally, in the league. So, yeah, I think you can absolutely say it was a bad look, that your best team by far, absolutely the best team in the league this year, just no-showed the game. They couldn't do anything. And, nothing. They didn't just not score. They didn't even move the ball in the first half at all. So, yeah, that's not a good look. I think we can easily look at the Big 12 and say it's not even close to the Big Ten or the SEC. I think that's fair.
No, not only did they lose to just anybody, too. They lose to Oregon, who's the third best team in the Big Ten behind Indiana and Ohio State. I real quickly want to pivot to Indiana after their bludgeoning of Alabama in the Rose Bowl. It has been one of the more dominant seasons that we've ever seen at the college football level from a team like Indiana, and a team that, quite frankly, 5 years ago was the doormat of the Big Ten. What does Curt Cignetti need to do to become maybe the greatest coach and have the greatest turnaround of a program of all time?
Well, I think he's still got a long way to go because doesn't have longevity on his side. But if he wins a national championship, he stamps himself as one of the great turnarounds no matter what. So national championship makes a big difference, but can you compare him right now to what Bill Snyder did at Kansas State? I don't think so. Not yet. That program was every bit the doormat that Indiana is, although Indiana certainly was in the running for having one of the terrible programs of college football. And also it is a different time. What they have done monetarily hasn't been talked about that much. But a lot of people, and Mark Cuban sort of thinly veiled talked about how much money he wouldn't say it, but he said it was a significant amount or some obtuse comment like that.
Yeah.
So the combination of a very single-minded, excellent football coach obviously has won wherever he's gone. And it isn't refreshing that their quarterback is just a dork.
I love it.
He's just a lovable dork.
I love his
got
post-game interview last night was fantastic.
Just refreshingly doofusy, excellent quarterback.
And might be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
Right. Just a ray of sunshine. He doesn't look anything. He doesn't look or act anything like a quarterback.
No.
Nothing. Not out of standard casting. It's like a Hollywood movie where they, Skippy gets to play quarterback, and all of a sudden he finds superpowers, and he's great.
But you know what he does? He talks like a head coach. Like I heard him talking. I'm like, that's right. That kid's smart, and he seems to have. It just makes that story even more amazing.
But he looks he looks like his mom cuts his hair.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's a good.
He does come from Cal, so he's got to have the smarts at least a little bit there.
But how much does that what they're doing put pressure on other?
It puts pressure on anybody.
Missouri, anybody you can't get there because it's just too difficult. Well, Indiana did it, so I think that removes the excuses from about 20 or 30 power.
I think it really removes excuse from everybody. Yeah. That was a program that they've sucked forever.
Yeah.
Or ever.
Yeah.
They've never been good. When you're talking about Lee Corso is one of your signature leaders, then that's Lee was old a long time ago.
Yeah, and if they can find a quarterback that's really good, there's no reason
Well, you would think.
like
I can't imagine. I can't
one.
imagine that there's any reason why they can't find another quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, because
if
that guy looks like he's having a heck of a time, even though
Yeah.
the coach looks very intense, and they've got the money, and now they've got the success. It's a beautiful place to go to school, also. So, yeah, very nice campus.
I said that Signetti always looks like he might have spent 20 years as a contract killer who specialized in explosives. He just has that look like that man has definitely killed someone somewhere in the past.
He does. He looks like he could kill you with a look. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Does it make any sense for him? I know he signed the extension earlier this year, but does it make any sense for him to, take a job down the road at an SEC program, or now is it more of a let's make Indiana the premier job in college football, and I've got no reason to leave because they're going to pay me the money. We have the financial backing from donors, and we're in a conference that, if you can win it over Ohio State and continue to do that year in and year out, who's to say that 5 years down the road, people look at Indiana the way they do at Ohio State? I guess it also comes down to what NFL talent they're pumping out as well, because that matters to a lot of recruits out there. But does it make sense at any point in time at his age to leverage his position into another head coaching job, or is there really a better one right now in college football?
I can't imagine that he would look elsewhere. They gave him his chance. He's in the Final Four of college football. Like I said,
he'll be 65 in June, which isn't old necessarily, but it's not usually.
But it's old to be starting again.
That's what I'm saying. It's older to be jumping somewhere else, and
also
he'd be 68 by the time he got around to doing that.
It's Indiana. I mean, if he has a season like Alabama just had, they're going to be happy.
Right.
They're not going to be ready to string him up. They're not going to have Paul Feinbaum calling him soft.
Yeah.
For the whole nation to hear. So I would not think he would look elsewhere. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Like I felt this way when Brad Stevens was going to the championship game at Butler, and people think, man, what do you think he can come to Missouri? I'm like, where he can do what? Go to the Final Four? Which he's already twice gone somewhere that no Missouri coach ever has. Why would he go from Butler to Missouri? And why would Curt Cignetti go if he wins a national title? What's the lure to go somewhere else where you can do what? What you just did?
Yeah, I don't have any thought that he would want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
If you win the national championship, also you've proved more than you would prove if you did it at Alabama or whatever. Now maybe he goes and gets trucked in the next game, and he's looking around. He's saying, you know what, we haven't enough, but to get here, but maybe we don't have enough. I can't see it.
Yeah.
He waited his whole lifetime to get even this off. I mean, he took a job at the University of Indiana, which is a coach killer job.
Right.
So I would think that he also feels like they've supported him tremendously. Like I said, it's a place where he can now rattle off 9 and 10 win seasons, and I think they'll be happy with that.
It's amazing that I was looking at his coaching record. 2018, 7 years ago, he was 6-5 with Elon, and now here he is, the head of what looks like a beastly team that has an incredibly high ceiling. I can't think he would have imagined that this quickly he'd be. He says, Google me, I win wherever I win. But you think at 6-5 at Elon, he was thinking, I'm going to win a national title someday. Maybe they all think that, but
I think that he probably is what he seems to be, a super confident guy who's has a strong belief in the way he coaches football, and that he just felt like all I needed was to get a chance at some place that was a higher level than that. Or
he's probably immediately.
He probably also strikes me as somebody who was a glad-hander.
Right.
That's somebody that was necessarily easy to work with, or was going to do things, go and do 100 cocktail parties with.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me. He's the anti-Bill Self. He's not going to walk in and just win the room where Bill Self walks into a room and everyone goes, I like that guy. Signetti's the complete polar opposite in many regards that way.
Yes, although in winning, he seemed the warmth of him seemed to come out.
He actually smiled
quite
once.
a bit more. Yeah, they
cool.
noted that on the radio broadcast. Hey, I think we just saw him smile. So
didn't know we had that in him.
I do want to pivot, not to not too long from now into some NFL draft talk. So kind of tied into college football playoffs, talk a little bit about the Chiefs. So we do have to dive into Chiefs and Raiders. We pushed it off long enough. But we're an hour and 20 into the show, and we have not made one mention of the Chiefs and Raiders. We have talked about draft prospects, which there were 2 that played over the weekend. So here's what we're going to do. Let's take a quick break, come back, and get Danny's thoughts on 2 guys that might be available for the Chiefs' top 10 in the draft. You're listening to the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
right, the Nick and Jake's end of the hour answer. Travis Kelce, one of 3 Chiefs to have 1,000 career receiving yards against the Raiders. I know. Name the other 2. I was talking to Brad there.
1,000.
Mm-hmm. He has 1,600.
There's so few Chiefs receivers who had longevity.
There's
with
one
the
that you'd be
Chiefs.
like, yeah, just.
But it can be a tight end as well.
It could be any position.
Tony Gonzalez.
Receiving yards. Tony Gonzalez. By the way, Kelce and Gonzalez are 1-2 on among all players against the Raiders. One more. Has a ring.
Tyreek Hill could have got it in that length of time.
Not him.
Does have a Super Bowl ring though.
Dang, I was gonna say
Otis Taylor.
Otis
Taylor. I was gonna guess maybe Dwayne Bowe because of longevity,
he's
but
he's
fourth. Okay,
he's like 870 or maybe he's around 900. But
there were some lean years without getting the ball as much.
Trav, Tony, and Otis.
Dwayne Bowe. Does anything say more about?
I've upset Danny.
Those years.
Oh yeah.
With those Chiefs
there's
years
probably a few
and
things that would have upset me more.
Charlie,
at least he produced a few times.
Charlie Rice is Charlie Rice, and now Charlie Rice Jr. is Charlie Rice Jr.
A few.
The Clarks.
He's just such a clown.
Yeah.
And it's the way he capped it off with the no catch and the explanation that he was going to break his foot. Is that what he said?
Oh, in the playoff game?
Yeah.
Was it that one? There was also was it Halloween against the Steelers when Palko started and Palko threw a ball that was too high at the end and he jumped and didn't put his hands up in the air and it got picked off? There was some explanation about that earlier. It was like I would have gotten hurt on the player. It wasn't even close or something. And I remember all of the broadcast was like, how did he not put his hands up for this ball?
You are an amazing Chiefs fan that you remember a ball that Tyler Palko threw that Dwayne Bowe didn't have effort
Unfortunately.
I remember every pass from Tyler Palko I remember was awful.
It did not go well.
I saw a little highlight package of him one night when they were playing the Steelers at Arrowhead, and
that's probably the one I'm thinking
of.
No
touchdowns and 3 picks, and I remember thinking, Todd Haley is going to lose his job because he's just not going to play Kyle Orton, and then he did.
And they beat the Packers, who were undefeated at the time.
The Romeo Crennel did.
The defense, yeah. Because they held him to 14 or something like that. But, yeah, no, we don't need to reminisce about those days. Not so ever.
Let's not reminisce about Todd Haley.
No. We do have some Chiefs to talk about, though. Danny, you were talking about being on vacation around Christmas time and, still paying attention to the Chiefs, but we're in a weird, December, January part of the year and the new year where Chiefs football just is not being talked about to lead off every single show because their season comes to an end on Sunday, and the only thing that can change is where they're drafting. And over the weekend and watching these college football playoff games, watched Ruben Bain out of Miami, watched David Bailey for Texas Tech, we've asked nearly every Chiefs guest so far if you were in charge of making that pick, because it feels it's either an edge rusher or it's a running back. Now, there's really only one running back you can take in that spot, and that's Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. But the edge rusher position, you can go Ruben Bain, you can go David Bailey. If you want defensive line in general, you could go Pete Woods if he's there out of Clemson. If it were you, who are you selecting with that top 10 or top 11 pick?
Just off recency bias, I guess I'll say Ruben Baines. I mean, he looks like he can wreck the game from the interior and maybe move outside. I don't really, to me, it's your job to get right what you need to draft, which is an edge rusher. If they draft a running back, I think they're out of their minds. I mean, they can draft him in the third, somebody in the third round or whatever. Yes, they need running back help. There's no doubt about that. But let's face it, Andy Reid is not going to become a run-first play caller and play designer. So what's the point of that? And they haven't been able to get to the quarterback without blitzing for years, even with Chris Jones around. So you need more guys. And I think what has happened this year has not made the Emperor have no clothes, but I think it's made Brett Veach's player acquisition look a lot worse. I think we've seen now quite a bit how Patrick Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid have papered over overrated talent.
And you've seen I saw a stat about the diversity of pressure from defenses and whether you use a lot of different looks and blitzes or whether you use the same thing every time. And the Houston Texans were at the bottom. It's basically, as this person said, just straight gas. The Chiefs were easily the highest at like 99% of their pressures were on various, that was their rating of diversity, where it's just everything. I mean, he really has, it's kind of amazing the job he's had to do with the talent
I
he's
totally
had. I mean,
agree.
It's incredible.
I think that it's been revealing.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have, by what most people still say is the quarterback you would want the most in the NFL. I do think that's arguable now, but still, he's in the the running and if not one but three or whatever you want to do, and they're not very good.
Yeah,
and their offense isn't very good,
despite the fact that they've invested a lot of draft capital and some free agent capital.
And re-signing capital.
Yes, in re-signing capital. I do think it's interesting. You mentioned Andy Reid's proclivity to want to pass the ball, and I do think they need to invest more in the running back position than they have the last 5 years. Almost no money in free agency and 2 seventh-round picks in the last 5 drafts. But it would be interesting. I think the idea of him making some changes to his offensive philosophy is open for the first time since he's been here because of the way the season went. This would be the year that you might think, okay, you're not frozen by your success. You're going to have to make some changes. And how much will we be able to get an idea about that based on how they value that running back position? I think if they either spend money on a big name guy or if they do take Jeremiah Love with the 9th pick overall, I think that will certainly be an indication that he's willing to change the situation. His philosophy and his approach offensively, because I don't think you make that move, as you point out, you don't make that move if you're going to just run RPOs and then pass 85% of the time.
I just can't even imagine that he's going to change his stripes after all these years, and I don't really think he should. It's still as much as the NFL the last couple of years has valued more running the football and trying to create different boxes and things like that, and Stan McDowell did an unbelievable column, which I keep keeping in my queue here on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday he did it. We just had some amazing stats about, how the Chiefs have to change and how the way they operate has created much more challenging scenarios for their quarterback to throw because they're constantly playing against defenses that are designed to stop the pass because they never run the football.
Yeah, and when they do, it's not explosive.
And it's a great column, and every Chiefs fan should read it. I think it was Tuesday. Let me just put the date. It was the 31st. So look it up, and there's just great stuff in it. If you're a Chiefs fan, you should just absolutely see it because, it's got stuff like Daniel Jones and Gardner Minshew Colts topped 31 points 10 times in the last 2 years. The Chiefs twice have gone over 31 points. The Colts have scored 31 10 times.
Yeah.
So, they do have to do some different things, but I think it is revealed that Chiefs fans, Chiefs themselves, have wildly overrated their wide receivers.
Yes.
They're not nearly as good as people. Remember what the narrative was when they're going to be an unstoppable force when all those guys are healthy and Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown and oh boy, they're going to be cooking with gas. Well, no. And you mentioned it the other day when I was listening that whenever you watch the shot from behind Patrick Mahomes on these plays where he ended up having to eat the football or he left the pocket or whatever, it's like covered. There doesn't seem to be any creativity in their route running, and
they can't beat man pressure, and then they don't know how to run. They don't have the right guys to beat zone pressure.
And to your point about Andy Reid having to make some adjustments or whatever, his passing game is based on a lot of option routes for his wide receivers, and that's why it's considered so complicated, etc. Well, these guys don't seem to have much of a feel for it because whatever option they're picking is the wrong one, and they seem to give up a lot too. They run out there, and then they make their first move, and they're covered, and they're like, well,
they just stand there.
Play's over.
Yeah. And also, it isn't just that they don't maybe run them as well. It's just I think defenses have slowly gotten used to when they line up, they go, okay, we've seen this before. This is going to be this. And even the misdirection and the types of motion and movement things they do don't fool anybody. It seems like more and more you see defenders break on passes and open receivers more than I remember seeing. And I think that's they're anticipating what's going on. And
well,
so
they can just sit there and read, too. They don't even have to worry about they don't care. The Chiefs are not going to run the football. If there's an RPO,
and if they do, it's not going to go 50 yards.
Pat's going to throw.
Yeah. And if they do run it, it's not going to hurt them. There's no reason to really play the run because what's the worst is going to happen? They get 10, 12 yards. You're not going to break a long one. That's the part where I think they do need to at least value the running back position a little bit more. Maybe not the 9th overall pick, but they got to do more than just Isaiah Pacheco and Brashard Smith. They got to at least put something into it because that helps the passing game as well.
Isaiah Pacheco is the Dwayne Bowe of this generation. I mean, he's not a knucklehead. He's tries hard and everything, but he is the most overvalued nothing player. I think
mad.
I think I put this out on Twitter. If I didn't, I should have. I said, I am so tired of his Wile E. Coyote running style. I mean, just runs around like a nut.
Yes.
And then, pops up and gives you the first down thing. It's anybody who loves that act, I don't know, man. I almost cringe when I see a Pacheco jersey. It's just so tiring. At least Kareem Hunt, you know what he is. He's trying. He can get some short yardage. Pacheco's just a bundle of nothing.
And it seems like his vision has gotten worse.
I don't know if he ever had any vision.
He routinely
just ran hard,
ran
hard off the back, but so it's a little refreshing at first to see some guy who's really giving it his all and hits the hole hard, but then when you realize eventually that he just runs straight ahead, and if there's a hole there,
he pushes. He doesn't make anybody miss.
Well, he doesn't even know where he's going. He just runs, and if there happens to be a hole, he might make some yardage.
Considering, and this is a high, you can't really compare him to someone like Bijan Robinson, but the big run the other night, guy had him in the backfield, and he planted a foot, made one move, hit the hole, and was gone. I don't remember the last time the Chiefs had a running back that could even do the first part of that, and that's part of the reason why I think they don't have any long runs. They don't have the athleticism. But I mean, I do think they need to.
What do we need to say anything more than Clyde Edwards-Helaire was on the team this year?
Yes. No. Well, I mean, everyone who was on the team.
No, but
essentially, even Kareem Hunt coming back. Everyone who was on the team.
Not just on the team. He got a couple carries.
Yeah, it's like.
But I mean, they've decided that he was
after giving Elijah Mitchell $2.5 million.
At least three. Their third best, third or fourth best.
Yeah.
Nuts. So yes, they have to improve that, but not at the expense of they need an edge rusher bad.
If Bain is there, and they don't take him, they're going to rue that for the next decade. Particularly if someone else right behind him, the Bengals might be picking right behind him.
Are you surprised, Danny, that in these final couple of weeks when they've been eliminated from postseason contention, it's really just a matter of where they're picking at this point? They haven't just given all of the young players that have been playing behind the veterans all season long, giving them the reps. And if they don't play on Sunday, do you feel that's a huge missed opportunity by Andy Reid and this coaching staff?
Well, I think it is, but also I think this point has been made. These coaches who we trust, they've won, gone to the Super Bowl numerous times and won 3 of them. They've seen these guys like Bassa and in practice, and they've just said no, we're not 4 snaps for you. So it's another thought of, not like they were highly drafted, but they were drafted players that they weren't good selections, I guess, because they're not even worthy of giving a flyer now. I mean, you've got no reason. I mean, the worst indictment was the Titans game because they really tried to win and they put a bunch of veterans out there, and it was embarrassing. So, it's a missed opportunity because what do you have to lose? But also the coaches clearly have watched them all year and decided that they're not doing this, they're not doing that. I'm just not going to – I can see a coach saying, I'm just not going to hand this guy a bunch of snaps just because we can. He hasn't earned them. I mean, that would be, I'll listen to that for sure from a coach. I see this guy in practice. He doesn't know what he's doing, or he's just not good enough. And why should I just say, here you go, you get to play National Football League plays ahead of Drew Tranquil or whatever, who does what he's supposed to and is a true pro. So I get that.
But if they don't play, even if however much you want to put on the player, if that's the case, it still has to go on somebody else, right? It's either the evaluation staff of getting him there, the coaching staff for not developing him, or something. It's never just going to be the guy.
Well, it can be just the guy too. The guy can be just a knucklehead, or he doesn't care, or
what? Then why is he on the team? I mean, there's still
True.
Part of it always goes back to.
But you're not going
to,
you probably need at least a year or so to prove for the guy to prove that he doesn't know what he's doing, and apparently, now that today they run two of those guys up on a press conference, so.
Looks like
they're listening. They clearly are. They listen more than they ever want, because they know what the narrative is out there. Oh, you were supposed to play him, and you got 4 snaps, and now you're making him available to the media. And he sounded good in front of a microphone. Yeah. That's good, I guess.
He's very good.
He was fine, and he played on special teams some. So I guess there's he obviously has some value there, but. Yeah, I would. If it was me, I'm going to, okay, whatever. Maybe he's a gamer. We've always heard that there are some guys who are much better in games than they are in practice. I find it hard to believe that a guy down on the rung isn't really giving it his all, and it just when the lights get bright, he's all of a sudden going to be way better. But I would still play them, yes. But I understand what coaches would think if they didn't want to just throw him out there and think they are getting undeserved snaps.
Before we move off the Chiefs, just want to put that out there. Jesse Newell reporting that who's the NFL?
Pelissero?
Tom Pelissero. And he just says Tom and Ian. I'm like, wait a minute. Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport are reporting that Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy is expected to interview with the Titans next week. Of course, Titans GM Mike Borgonzi was the former assistant GM here.
Mike Borgonzi has got a big set of those. If after what the Chiefs did against the Titans, he runs that guy out as your head coach, you got to have some stones to do that when your fan base watched them just stink the field up under Matt Nagy right in front of their faces.
Well, the first 3 responses to that post are, does he need any help packing? Hopefully all goes well. And good God, what a horrible hire that would be.
Well, I understand the comments, but let's face facts. The real offensive coordinator of the Chiefs is Andy Reid, not Matt Nagy.
Right.
So don't just dump all over Matt Nagy and
I'm not
you.
Yeah.
I mean, just people in general. I mean, it's a big narrative out there. Oh, I'll drive him to Tennessee or whatever. He's not. It's not like he's responsible for he's part of the mix. But
let's not forget the last time he was a head coach, he got to the postseason with Mitch Trubisky. I mean, he's not a.
No, I'm not even saying he would necessarily be a bad coach, but what I'm saying is Borgonzi would be very gutsy to do that.
That guy who we can thoroughly shut down, although it was with a different quarterback, but it's still like, here he is. That will not be a popular hire if that is made in Tennessee.
No.
Impossible to win that press conference. Although Matt Nagy is very good at the mic. He sounds like a head coach whenever he talks. Both the Chiefs coordinators do. But he could be as good as you could possibly be, and the Tennessee fans are going to go, seriously?
Yeah, we'll see if Matt Nagy makes it that far in this interview process with the Tennessee Titans. I know for some Chiefs fans, you're wanting that OC role to open back up, but as Danny says, I mean, how much of that is really the OC? How much of it is really Andy Reid being the end-all, be-all when it comes to sending in plays for whoever is taking snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs? Let's take a quick break, come back, and wrap up Danny Unleashed on the program.
The program with Soren Petro.
If you can work the little one-hand tug, it's a little easier.
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Look, I love the NBA. Every single night we've got games. That means every single night I'm on my Underdog app. If you don't have it, download it now. And by the way, I'll let you know a little secret. Use the promo code SOREN, SOREN. You can score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code SOREN, SOREN. Download the Underdog app. Use the promo code SEREN, score $75 in bonus entries. It's just that easy when you play your first $5. Again, the promo code is SEREN, SOREN. You can make entries, win money right now in Missouri. In fact, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Get your entries right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Just choose your favorite players and then determine whether they'll go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, blocks. They're all there. You can add them up, points, rebounds, plus assist. It's one of the ones I was loving with the Jokic. I was going higher on that all the time, and he was delivering. I'll tell you something I'm looking at for tonight. Brandon Miller, higher than 19.5 with the Hornets against the Bucks. Yeah, Giannis gets all the hype, but I think Brandon Miller is a kid who's coming into his own and going to be a star. The former number 1 pick from a couple of years ago. I like Brandon Miller higher than 19.5 points. And I'll give you another one. The Pacers, Pascal Siakam, Indiana against San Antonio. No Wembanyama. That means Siakam has room to work in the paint. I'm going higher on the 24.5 for Pascal Siakam. It's just that easy. Download the app, pick your player, pick your stat, go higher or lower. But you got to have the app. Download the Underdog app. Use promo code SEREN, SOREN, to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. It's an Underdog. Make plays, win money.
Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Men, if one of your resolutions this year is to feel better, stronger, and more like yourself again, it may be time to look at your testosterone levels. Feeling exhausted, unfocused, gaining weight, or not seeing results in the gym are often signs of low testosterone, not just getting older. Heartland Men's Health are experts in treating low T and other men's health conditions, helping men across Kansas City get their edge back. With treatment, many men notice improved energy, clearer thinking, better sleep, stronger workouts, and a renewed sex drive within just a few weeks. You can even start by taking a
Wrapping up hour number 2 of the program here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Soren Petro. Kurtis Seaboldt here. Kyle Collier is producing, and we're wrapping up Danny Unleashed with Danny Klingskill, which is brought to you by Easton Roofing.
Yes, indeed, and Easton Roofing also, not exactly, but they're also involved with another enterprise. I got to play a little golf on vacation, but if the weather has got you down as far as your golf game is concerned, feel free to head over to Back Nine Golf, a great place for with great hitting bays and the same technology that they use on the new TGL Golf, and you can get in there at 75th and Metcalf. Back Nine Golf, 75th and Metcalf. Keep your game sharp because spring good weather will be coming soon. That's Back Nine Golf, 75th and Metcalf.
Real quickly before we let you go, Danny, and we really do appreciate your time as always, the news coming out of Lawrence this morning that Andy Kotelnicki, former OC for the team back in 2021, 22, and 23, got that offense to a very high ranking nationally for a number of years. He comes back to Lawrence and takes on the role of associate head coach. Kind of leads you to believe that he's going to take over the majority of play calling responsibilities. I'm not sure why he would come back if he didn't have that role as well. Do you see this being an excellent hire for KU, or do you feel like, bringing him back, it may work, but also go the other way of you just don't have the same playmakers that you once did back in 22 and 23?
I think it's nothing but great. Now, I think there might be higher expectations than maybe will be realized, but I don't think the playmakers were really as high a level as people really thought they were. They ran the ball no matter who was back there, no matter who was hurt. They were creative in the running game. I think it's great. I think, and we know that Lance Leipold really isn't an offensive play caller or a defensive play caller. He's a CEO type of head coach. He's said it himself. And so Andy Kotelnicki, I think, will be completely in control of the offense, and I expect the kind of creativity in the running game, especially that we saw. That was the key mark. That was the keynote of those offensive teams. The fact that game in, game out, whatever running backs they had back there, guys could be hurt, whatever. The running game was creative, confusing, and so I think it's great. Now, I think that he also will be seen as somewhat of a savior because their offense didn't operate nearly as well as it did when he was there. But I think it's nothing but good that he came back, and they're just fortunate enough that Penn State got tired of having a guy win 10 or 11 games every year, and so that staff got blown up. But I think it's great. I think it's great, and two bits of good news in one day for local teams. As Avery Johnson's going to come back to K-State too, so I think that's great. He's been certainly a meteoric player. Sometimes he's never really reached the heights that I think he's sometimes flashed, but I think one more go-round is certainly worth it with him, for sure.
What should, I guess, the expectations be for both of these teams going in the next year, where Colin Klein takes over for Chris Kleiman? You do bring your quarterback back, which I feel for a lot of incoming head coaches, you'd rather not have to worry about finding a new quarterback in the portal. Kansas, they still have Lance Leipold there, but bringing Kotelnicki back is obviously a very big move. They're going to have to replace Jalen Daniels, whether that be Cole Ballard or Isaiah Marshall or the portal. Should this be a situation where Colin Klein, based on their schedule, you got to go out there and win 8 to 9 games in year one? Should it be higher than that? And for Kansas, is it as simple as get back to a bowl game, because going back-to-back years of 5 and 7 just isn't going to cut it?
I think the bowl game is a must for Kansas, because then all the goodwill that you've built with a renaissance that Lance Leipold has brought is in jeopardy, because I think people are going to start to question whether he actually, made an initial surge, but what has happened since then? I think that would be the wrong thing, and I think that they should stick with him, but I think it would behoove, just for the total feeling of everything, the stadium's getting closer to full completion, that they get to a bowl game. For Kansas State, I think that their fans are going to be all in on Colin Klein. I think Colin Klein's immediate impact will be that Avery Johnson will run the football more.
Yep.
And I think he has the kind of personality, Colin Klein, to impart on somebody maybe the kind of toughness that he had when he was a player, and not to worry about other things besides playing football for Kansas State University right now. and winning football games. So I think the expectations, however, will be high for Colin Klein. But I think year one, he'll probably have kind of a nice leash, and a bowl game would be considered just fine, I think.
A very interesting matchup we'll see later on in that year is Jordan Peterson, who used to be on KU staff, now DC for the Kansas State Wildcats. He'll be going up against Andy Kotelnicki, who was also on that staff. And you have to imagine some of those practices were great back in the day of those two great minds going head-to-head. Well, Danny, thanks so much for your time as always. Hope it was a great new year for you, and can't wait to talk to you next time.
Sounds great. Always fun, Jack.
There he goes. That's Danny Klingscale, Danny Unleashed, here on the program. When we come back, we'll make our picks with Fat Jack on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, before Fernando Mendoza, who was the last Indiana quarterback to win a bowl game?
Hour number 3 of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Seren Petro, Kurtis Seaboldt, sitting across from me. Kyle Collier is producing this thing. A big thank you to Danny Klinkskill, who joined us in the last hour. And we're kicking off hour number 3 with Fat Jack from FatJackSports.com. Well, Fat Jack, how was the month of December for you? And I guess more importantly, how was this last week for you, especially with the college football playoffs starting?
Good, Jack Johnson in the big leagues. I love it.
Yeah, baby.
Love it. Host of the Seren show. Interesting stuff. Yeah, things are good, Jack. So we were 3-1 yesterday, and the only loss yesterday, and I know a lot of the public, I think, got beat pretty bad from what I'm hearing. Our only loss was Texas Tech, which we had a futures ticket on. So if you're a seasoned client at FatJackSports.com, you were given, actually, if you just listen to this show, this segment, we gave it out for about 4 weeks in a row. Texas Tech to win the national championship. And I said every time, they don't need to win the national championship at 80-1. I got 82-1. The guy's down to about 50-1. If you just get that futures ticket and make a good decision in September, then you'll be able to hedge out of that once we get to this time of year, which is exactly what my clients and I did. So I gave them basically 4 plays yesterday. We had Texas Tech, which I told them up front, if you have that futures ticket, bet 4X on, or 4 to 5X on whatever you bet on that ticket on Oregon on the money line. And then we had Indiana, we had Indiana under, and had Ole Miss. So were the other plays. And so ended up going 3-1, but I made $4,000 on the loser we had yesterday. And I don't know what you think about it, Jack, but I tell you, if those two teams played again, final score says Oregon dominated the game. What I saw was a quarterback that was in way over his head, felt like he was definitely a deer in the headlights, and a team that turned it over 4 times against another team. At this level, and that goes for the NFL playoffs as well, if you turn the ball over 4 times, you lose. I mean, it's just really that simple. So I'm not sure if they play it again. I wouldn't give Texas Tech out again. But a good round 2 of the college playoffs, and excited about this week as well. I know Week 18 is not have the same effect that it normally does for Chiefs fans, but still a lot of opportunities to make money.
Yeah, for starters, I agree with you on the Tech-Oregon game. I mean, if there was one question mark for the Red Raiders as dominant as they were all season long, it was Baron Morton. It was the quarterback play, especially dealing with injuries throughout the season. And you're also correct that, especially here in Kansas City, Week 18 has a much different feel. You've got a 6-10 Chiefs team going up against the Raiders team that is just hoping to land the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Right now, the Chiefs are a 3-point favorite, it shows, in Vegas against the Raiders. Actually, might be 5.5 now that I think about it. Yeah, it says 3 on the sheet. I believe it was 5.5 last time we checked. So, Kurtis, we'll start with you here. Do the Chiefs end the regular season with a win in Vegas?
Well, usually you say you can't bet on a team if they don't have a quarterback, but that would have prevented anyone from betting on either side in this one. If you think the Chiefs have a motivation problem, the Raiders packed it in weeks ago. I don't love it. 5.5 is a dangerous line for me as a favorite, but I'll still take the Chiefs.
Kyle?
Yep, I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. For all the reasons you said, Kurtis. If this was any other team but the Raiders, I'm probably picking them. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs against this sad, sorry heap of Raiders players.
Well, I would say that, it's been great just, being able to kind of understand what the line was going to be each and every week. I thought that the line was very predictable against the Titans. It certainly was predictable against the Broncos. This one shouldn't really surprise you. It's not that the Raiders are just bad. They're really bad without their best players. And when these two met in Kansas City, they were down a few players. The Chiefs shut them out. It's a Raiders team that got thumped by the Giants last week. They want to get that number 1 pick. The Chiefs want to draft higher as well, but I think even if they tried to lose this game, the Raiders are going to try a little bit harder to lose this game. So I'll go with Kansas City as well. Fat Jack, or actually, what were Pete's picks here, Kyle?
Right,
and Seren.
I've got Pete and Seren here. Both of them, unsurprisingly, go with the Chiefs, so we're all chalk.
Okay. Fat Jack, are we on the right side of this with Kansas City, or did you go with the Raiders?
Yeah, so nobody... Listen, it's hard to line up and play the Raiders, but we should just a PSA announcement to everybody out there. If you're betting on teams that you think want to lose, that is a fan's point of view. There's not one player on the Raiders team that will not be playing as hard as he possibly can. Because when you're playing for the Raiders in Week 18, you're playing for your career, you're playing for your family, you're playing for a spot on an NFL roster. These players will be the first to go. and out of the league. So you'll get great effort out of, unfortunately for them, are bad, relatively speaking, football players. And so it's real hard. Anybody but, Kyle said, I think, the best, that anybody but the Raiders, it'd be hard not to take the points here. But the Raiders can't run the ball, 3.6 yards per carry. They can't block anybody. The quarterback's been sacked 61 times. Whoever's been starting quarterback, 61. Guys, that's horrible. They've averaging 13 points per game over their last 8. I'm an auto better on the Chiefs under, which has cashed 11 of 14 times this year. Chiefs are 10th in yards allowed. They're 6th in points per game. They're not going to score much, you wouldn't think, simply out of a game plan. The only way that the Raiders stay in this thing is because if you give them a bunch of extra possessions. So I think it's a conservative game plan. Expect the Chiefs defense to do what they've been doing. I think it's like 16-10. It's a boring game to watch. Chiefs get there, but you're going to have to earn it. Better play on the under.
All right, we're moving on here to an NFC South matchup. What a weird division it's been all season long. You would have thought maybe early on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to run away with it, but here they are needing to take down the Carolina Panthers, who beat them not too long ago. The Bucs at home are a 3-point favorite. Kyle, we are going to start with you.
I've really enjoyed watching the Panthers this year. Kind of a fun story to watch them, contend a little bit. But I think the Bucs bounce back. I know they've lost 4 in a row now. I'm going to take the home team here. Give me Tampa.
Yeah, looking at this game, I mean, it's tough to put a lot of faith in Tampa Bay. They've been limping to the finish line here, but I just don't know if I can put that much faith in a team like Carolina. The winner of this game is likely getting eliminated early on in the postseason anyway, and Carolina does have that win in Carolina not too long ago, but with this being, in Tampa, they've been on this losing streak. They've still had this chance to win the division. I'm with you here, Kyle. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. Let's go over to Kurtis here, and then we'll get Soren and Pete's picks.
Well, the Bucs haven't covered the numbers since October 26th. 8 straight losses against the spread. I am not going to get in front of that train. Give me Carolina.
All right, Kyle, what were Soren and Pete's picks for this game?
Kurtis is going to be on an island, both of them going Tampa Bay.
Okay, and now finally, Fat Jack, you tell us whether we were right or wrong.
Kurtis, I need more of a positive outlook from you on this game. I mean, 0-8 against the spread, no, you're right. That's no good. You don't want to get in front of that train. But as guys on this show know, I gave out Tampa Bay, the Rams, and Pittsburgh all in the exact same bet that we did with Texas Tech. So all they have to do is make the playoffs. I've got them at better than 20-1, all 3 of those teams. And so this is kind of a big weekend for those particular tickets. And it's hard to look at what the Rams have done lately, that Tampa Bay's done lately, and say, yeah, they're definitely going to turn it around. But I guess it's a little bit of I need it or want that to happen. I mean, and I feel like they are, when they put it together, good. Evans has played better since he came back. So I'm going to also kind of reverse the trends and play Tampa Bay. Carolina's looked really good the latter part of the season. A tough win if Tampa Bay gets it, but I need it for those futures tickets. So let's go ahead and lay the points and play the Bucs.
Moving on to the Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks are a 1.5 favorite. This should be, next to the Steelers and Ravens, which we'll pick next, maybe the most entertaining game to watch with what is on the line, though we did just pick a matchup that will decide the NFC South. The Seahawks, though, and Niners, they've been red hot of late. The Seahawks, of course, went into Carolina, beat the Panthers by 3 scores, had that thrilling game in Seattle where they took down the Rams in overtime. They beat the Colts by 2 when Phillip Rivers was out there for his debut. They hammered the Falcons and then also shut out the Vikings, whereas the Niners, they just continue to get it done despite all the injuries they've dealt with all season long. I'm so impressed with Kyle Shanahan. I feel that they are going to be the team to clip the Seahawks here. Should be wire-to-wire finish. At least that's my thought on it. So I'll go with the 49ers here and pivot over to you, Kurtis.
I'm seeing about 70% of the money is on the 49ers, but the line has moved 2.5 points towards Seattle. If those numbers are correct, Vegas knows something. I'll take the Seahawks.
Kyle, what say you?
All right, give me the Niners. This is probably one of the first times during this segment I've taken an underdog, but give me San Fran. I like you, Jack. Shanahan just continues to impress no matter what adversity that team seems to face.
And what do we got from Pete and Soren?
Pete and Soren both going Niners as well.
All right, Fat
I am
Jack.
living on this island.
You really are.
Like Gilligan.
Will Fat Jack join you on the island, or are you going to stay with San Francisco?
Curtis, that's exactly what I'm talking about. More positive.
Yes.
Dig in deep in the numbers. Don't look at what we've seen lately. There's not going to be any wire-to-wire clipping going on, I don't think. I mean, Seattle's definitely one of those teams that is undervalued because nobody thinks Sam Darnold is any good. But I think we've forgotten about all of the injuries that San Francisco had on defense. And there's a reason why Seattle's favored on the road here. And I think that's where it is. San Francisco's wins have either been at home or against teams that have been inferior to what they're going to see on Sunday. So Seattle 11-4 straight up their last 15 games. This team doesn't lose a lot. And I do think this is a spot where the general public will file in. They're going to file in on Carolina. They already have. They're the second most bet team of the entire week so far. And they're going to file in on the Niners because it's an easier place to live, especially when they're at home. Give me Seattle on the road to win and cover.
Looking at the AFC North battle, you've got the Ravens, who are now a 4.5-point favorite on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Maybe that surprises you, maybe it doesn't, but Curtis, we're going to kick things off with you here. Who's going to win the AFC North battle?
Well, the Ravens are 2-1 against the spread in their last 3, but 2-5 in their last 7. So which trend is more indicative, the more recent one or the larger one? Ravens are just 2-4 in one-score games this season. Steelers 6-3. That's what this game figures to be. I love the under. I like the Steelers.
Kyle, what say you on this game?
I'm a little bit different here than Curtis. The Steelers, I just feel like they are just going out just with a whimper. No, they're not going to have DK Metcalf. I'm not sure if TJ Watt's going to be there. Give me the Ravens. They looked very strong last week, and the Steelers, they just seem like they are declining.
And who is Pete and Seren going with in this game?
Both of them going Baltimore.
Yeah, I look at the line in this game at 4.5 in favor of the Ravens. To me, the Steelers have a snapshot of these final couple weeks that you can allude to, and it's DK Metcalf, getting in the altercation with the fan. I mean, they had Cleveland last week. All they had to do was win that game, and they don't even score 10 points. Now, defense still has Myles Garrett, but it feels that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers of late are just destined to finish 9-8 exactly. The Ravens being nearly a 5-point favorite on the road. I'm going with them here to win it, come back, and win the North. What about you, Fat Jack?
Curtis, you and I are going to figure out who's going to make fire on this island. We're going to probably be eating T-bone or wild boar or something because this island is getting comfortable. This might be your best showing of the entire season. I mean, I'm loving where you're living right now. You're all alone on an island, except I'm there also, and I won't shut up because I like Pittsburgh to make the playoffs. I need him to win here. And we do get Tomlin as an underdog, which over his career has been very, very good. I also think this is a bailout spot for the public. They're all going to be on Baltimore here. Recency bias is where people live on these type of games, and it's hard to look at what's happened recently and say, yeah, sign me up for the Steelers. But they've got value at home plus the points. They've got Tomlin as their coach, which, again, underperformed overall, but over his career, really good in exactly this spot. And Aaron Rodgers has been much better against mediocre to bad defenses than he has when they've played a better defense. I don't put Baltimore's defense in the good category. Give me the Steelers plus the points in that one.
All right, and the last one we have here on our program, picks Chargers at Mile High against the Denver Broncos. Justin Herbert is being rested in this game, gearing up for the postseason, so that makes the Broncos a 12.5-point favorite. Kyle, kick us off.
Man, it feels like nobody has any respect for Trey Lance, and frankly, why should you? But I cannot trust the Broncos to blow anybody out this year. It seems like every game, no matter who the opponent is, it's going to come down to the wire. That being said, give me the Chargers.
And what did Seren and Pete have for their picks?
Both of them on the Bolts.
Okay, I am actually going to, these first three picks, I don't know where Curtis or Fat Jack are going with this one, but I'm going to go with Denver. I mean, the offensive line play for the Chargers, they have to go up against Denver's pass rush. It's in Mile High. Haven't checked the weather. I'm assuming it's going to be really cold, but all I need is the Broncos to score, in my opinion, 17 points. Get 17 points, hold Trey Lance in that offense under 7, probably just hold him to a field goal, and I'll feel just fine about this game. The Broncos don't blow anybody out, but I have a hard time believing with the state of that offensive line, a backup quarterback, the Chargers are going to be able to score against Denver on the road. So I'm going to go with the Broncos outright to cover that 12.5.
Well, I'm looking at the money. 94% of the money is on Denver. 75% is on the under. Usually when a huge favorite has all the money on it, and the under, that's usually because they don't think the dog is going to score. It sounds like bettors think it's going to be about 24-10 Denver. That's kind of what I think it's going to be. I'll take the Broncos.
Okay, Fat Jack, for the final time, tell us who's right, tell us who's wrong.
All right, Jack, who did you have here?
I went with the Broncos, straight up.
So you two are the only two on the Broncos, so you're coming over to the island. We're going to put you in charge of a thatched roof or something? Is that what we are?
I'm fine with that.
All right, because I don't know. But this is the toughest one for sure. This is the one that if you're betting on this one, you're either down or you're really bored. Because this is the tough one. You get a backup quarterback against a defense that late in the game is going to rest players if they can. So the back door will be open, and you're giving away double digits against a team that has less to play for if they're winning. You know, they don't care about covering. I mean, we've seen that out of Denver's coach. He doesn't care about the number at all. So I think the back door will be open. I'm going to lean toward the Chargers here. And I think Lance will score a little, but you're going to have to earn it. There's much easier spots on the board. I've already sent out 5. Go to FatJackSports.com. Also, 10 players props for tomorrow alone. 3-1 yesterday in the college football playoffs. There are places to make money this weekend, but it's really, really tricky for the average guy for sure. So go to FatJackSports.com. $99 gets you all the football through Sunday, so all weekend long. Add those players, props, soccer, everything else. It's a lot. It's even less expensive. But the best deal, guys, right now I offer preseason rates for the entire year. So think about this. It's $1,799 all the way through the 2027 Super Bowl. So more than a year. Your package starts the minute you sign up. It's less than about $50 a week during football season to win when you sign up now. This will not be available in a week. It won't be available in a month. It'll be about $500 more if you wait till August. Now is the time. Or you can pay out any of these seasonal packages over 10 months today. 8 months on Monday, it goes to 8 months. But right now, for 10 months, you can pay less than a couple $100 a month, so less than $40 a week or whatever. Your package starts when you sign up, and you get everything, including the baseball season for free, horse racing for free, all of the plays through the 2027 Super Bowl for the best price of the entire year. Go to FatJackSports.com. Stop guessing. Stop playing your favorite teams and start building consistent profit, betting the games against the spread. Make 2026 a much better year at FatJackSports.com.
Fat Jack, thanks so much for your time, and you have a great weekend.
Guys, Happy New Year. I'll see you soon.
All right, there he goes. That's Fat Jack of FatJackSports.com. Curtis and him, island mates.
Yeah,
all the picks
except for the last
one.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be able to join you guys on the island, but I just replaced them.
I told you that. That's my goal was to make picks. That I could not have had a better day.
Yeah, and he said that verbatim.
So I'm good.
I'm honestly pretty shocked that because I was with Kyle on the Ravens Steelers pick here. You two going with Pittsburgh, and I do love it. And listening to Fat Jack many times, he does say that you don't want to fall victim to the recency bias. What some team did the week before, it is really hard to erase what happened. You know, with Pittsburgh and Cleveland the other week, and I just think that when Steelers fans look back, if they don't win this game, it's definitely going to be DK Metcalf getting that altercation because him not being available for the Cleveland game, I mean, they didn't play well to begin with. You take away a true number one like that from an offense that is so inconsistent, it is going to impact you. So Aaron Rodgers, in what could be his final game as a Steeler, he's hoping to get to the postseason and have a home playoff game. You're going to have to go through Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, who, by the way, while the Steelers lost to Cleveland, they went to Lambeau Field and hung 41 on the Packers. I know Malik Willis was quarterbacking that game, but to me, 41 against the Packers on the road. In fact, 41 points on the road in general against any team is going to get a nod of approval from me. So you do have a couple of games that will decide divisions. Panthers, Bucks. You have Steelers and Ravens. Broncos, they're trying to lock up the 1 seed. Chargers have nothing to play for. Chiefs and Raiders, nothing to play for but draft position. We're going to take a quick break here in hour number 1. When we come back, we will talk more Chiefs with Pete Sweeney of the KC Star. He's on deck on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The program with Soren Petro.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Weekdays from 2 to 6 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, look, football season is coming down to the end. That's right, we're in the full swing of the NFL, wrapping up the regular season, and however you like to get in on the action, you can do it on Underdog. Right now in Missouri, this season you can make team picks and player picks. Just download the app, sign up, and you'll get $75 in bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. Using Underdog is super easy. Just pick whether your favorite team will win or if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Plus, with Underdog's ultra-fast payouts, you can get your profits in a snap. I know I got my profits last night. So download the app today. Use promo code SOREN, S-O-R-E-N, to score $75 in bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. You heard me right. Download the app, then use that promo code SOREN, S-O-R-E-N, and score $75 in bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry at Underdog. It's all right there. So get the app today. Don't miss out on any of the action. It's an Underdog. Player picks, team picks, it's all on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Men, it's the new year, and for many of us, it's a time of deciding to make positive changes in our lives. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if you're suffering with erectile dysfunction and are tired of the frustration and embarrassment ED causes, you should call Heartland Men's Health today, because there probably isn't a better resolution you can make than to be done with ED. You see, ED doesn't just affect you, it can also affect your partner, even if they don't talk about it. But here's some great news. If you're like most guys, the treatments at Heartland Men's Health will give you back your sex life, because our protocols have success rates that work in well over 90% of cases. Seriously, you might even find you're performing like you haven't in years. So, make an appointment and get ED out of your life. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. That's heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices: Overland Park, Independence, and North Kansas City.
This is Jim and Spoken Fire. We want to wish everyone
on what the Chiefs should do with that first pick in the first round, because the edge rusher spot in college football, if you are taking top 10, feels like you could land one of those two guys.
Yeah, and the draft will be really interesting for the Chiefs this year. We won't have to wait till the end of the night, which I love personally, Jack, so I can go to bed at a decent hour on night one. But more importantly, the Chiefs, let's say they're at 11, whatever ends up happening, 12, that area. Now they're trading into what would be the top 5, 5 to 10. It gets a little easier because the team that may not like a guy. Or just wants to get more picks, it'll be easier to flip, fourth rounder or something and maybe get up a few spots if they like a guy, a third rounder. But again, that would be a situation where you'd have to be in love with the guy and you could use future picks. But I just think it's very interesting. If Kansas City falls in love with a player, it's a lot easier to go up to a 5, 6, 7 at 13 than it would be if you were still in 28 to 32. It's going to feel very new. I mean, this has been 10 years where they never really had that option. I know they made the big trade to go up and get Mahomes, well worth it, but they typically don't want to go so far up and trade all that future draft capital. And so, yeah, I think if the edge rusher of their dreams is there, they got to really consider, can we get up to 13 to what would be 8 or 9, even if it does take a 2027 third rounder, for example, yeah.
And talking with multiple people on the show this week, it comes down to, well, is it edge rusher, is it running back? But also the third part to this is they need a lot more than that as well. And one way to get that is through acquiring multiple picks, and they enter an offseason where maybe a guy like Trent McDuffie would be able to be flipped for some picks. Do you see that as likely, or do you feel the Chiefs will, have that money to work with and give him that extension?
Yeah, the Chiefs are kind of cap-strapped right now. So, I mean, I just think the obvious moves are ones they're going to have to make. Like Jawan Taylor comes to mind. You're not going to be able to sign McDuffie to a mega deal, eventually, and then keep Jalen Watson. Do the Chiefs go for the cheaper player and retaining Watson and do flip McDuffie to another team? I think the Jets and Colts sort of set the bar for a very high price for an elite cornerback. Now you got to get another team to give you that type of deal, and it didn't work out for the Colts because they lost their quarterback and kind of fell off. And so our team's going to be more cautious. I think I've said this before, more so like with the national talks about the Chiefs and that national podcast I've popped on. I think the Chiefs can be a playoff team in 2026, but as far as getting back to the Tier 1 elite, that's the best team in the NFL. I think you've got to be thinking about 2027, and so make the moves with 2027 in mind. And so, I think everything's on the table for them. And I also think with Mahomes out, what'll be really interesting is his number is ballooned for 2026. They're going to have to rework that deal, and maybe rework a couple other deals. But this team has done it. I mean, they have the guys in place, the cap guys. Chris Shea does a really good job, and I think Brett Veach always has his eyes on like a 5-year plan as opposed to just the year they did go all in was trying to get the three-peat. And I mean that costs money, and the bill is due. And so now you got to, I think, rework and reshape. I don't want to call it a rebuild. Like, I don't think the Chiefs who lost 8 one-score games need to rebuild. I think they need to make almost like a soft reform, reshaping, and that'll take some tough decisions. But I just, as long as you have Mahomes, I think you can find yourself building one of those Tier 1 teams, but it just may take 2 years.
How pressing is it that the Chiefs need to go after a wide receiver this offseason? I mean, you're still going to have Rashee Rice, and you're hoping to have him from week 1 on. You're hoping that a guy like Xavier Worthy doesn't get hurt on the first play of the year. But do you feel that they need to go out there and add a legitimate number 3, or perhaps add somebody who you could pencil in as a true number 2?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, it'd be great to get one of these big receivers. I've said it time and time again, what would Patrick Mahomes do with a DK Metcalf or like an A.J. Brown? I mean, these guys are few and far between. It's not just easy to go and get them, but I do feel like that's a need. Rashee Rice, to me, is very good in the intermediate and with the yak, but I just always wonder what Mahomes would look like with one of those big targets. So you throw up a 50-50 ball, 40 yards down the field, and he can go up and get it. Does that player exist for the Chiefs with all the needs they have? I mean, it's a lot of needs. Like we said, you talk about, all right, let's say they flip McDuffie. Jalen Watson and Noah Williams are fine, but now you need another cornerback. Let's say Travis Kelce does retire. That's something no one is really talking about. Like, that is a huge part of what the Chiefs have been over the past 10 years. Now you need a tight end. You need a running back. You need a pass rusher. You could probably use a safety because it wasn't that great of a year for Jaden Hicks. And so that's why, I bring up 2027 as, like, you almost see 2 draft classes worth of picks. And I also, wonder, we talked about a trade up before. Is it worth the Chiefs trading down in this draft if another team really likes somebody? And so you're giving yourself maybe extra room in that late first, what would be the second and third rounds, where if you feel like that's where the value of the draft is, you're getting 4 or 5 players instead of 1. It's going to be fascinating because the Chiefs just haven't been in the spot in a long time. I've been covering the Chiefs since 14. This will be the highest pick they have since I jumped on the beat, so it'll be new for me. Definitely be watching more college film and players, so we can talk about night one of the NFL draft more so than I've ever done. And I just wonder what this team looks like on the other end of the offseason.
We're talking with Pete Sweeney, the KC Star, here on the program. Want to get your thoughts on the NFL in general here. We got the playoffs that are fast approaching. The Chiefs aren't going to be there, of course, but who is your favorite on both sides right now? And I won't fault you if you take the one on both sides, if you take a dark horse, whatever route you want to go with this. Who do you feel most confident in representing the AFC and then representing the NFC?
This will be, it stinks that the Chiefs aren't involved in it in any capacity, because this will be one of the more interesting playoff tournaments for the NFL, I think, in a long time. I think, so you talk about a month ago, right? You talk about a month ago. And I think a lot of us were saying, all right, the AFC is wide open, but it'll probably be the Bills, right? Because, that's just the team that's always been there. And then you look at the NFC, and you're like, all right, I can probably see, the Eagles and the 49ers, but the Rams are probably the best team. They look like they're the best team. Now you open up the standings today. The Bills are the 7th seed, so they're just on the road the entire time. And the Rams have lost their first-round bye. And so now they have to go on the road, too, it is seeming like. And so you don't really know. I think in these situations, I always default to defense. So I think the Texans are pretty interesting out of nowhere. Certainly the Broncos, the Patriots. It seems like they might have the best offense, and so they're interesting to me. I guess if I had to pick, with the way Drake May is playing, I feel like the Patriots are my favorite for the AFC, but I'm not sure about it. I think the Jaguars are an interesting team. What if the Ravens are able to beat the Steelers and they get in? And now suddenly Lamar Jackson is in the dance. So really tough. I guess I would go with the Patriots. And then on the other side, I don't trust Sam Darnold. I mean, I know the Seahawks have looked great all year. I really like how the 49ers are playing right now. And so again, as you hear how cautious and undecided I am, I'll give you a very, very cautious New England, San Francisco Super Bowl. But it really could go in a lot of different directions, and that's what's going to be really fun to watch.
Talking with Pete Sweeney here of the KC Star on the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. When you're thinking about MVP candidates, right, and guys like Drake May and guys like Matt Stafford, is it as close as people think it is, or do you feel like it's a runaway? Because I feel like it should be Matt Stafford and a runaway, but what say you?
Yeah, it's tough. It is seeming like it is going to go to Drake May, based on what the odds tell you. Matt Stafford at times has looked really, really good. I think he just has made a couple mistakes here down the end, and it does seem to be a little back heavy when you're looking at all this. I think one player that really, and I know this is kind of out of the box, but one player that really hasn't gotten enough attention for this, and even in the odds, is Jackson Smith and Jigba. Sam Darnold. This guy has really made the Seahawks, a team that has enough offense to be in the number one spot right now in the NFC. And for me, that's not a Darnold thing. That's a Smith and Jigba thing. I think Christian McCaffrey is interesting. Like, I just haven't been blown away by any of these quarterbacks. Like I said, Drake May has had an awesome December. Is he the best player in the league? I don't know that. I don't know that. Same thing with Stafford, and you could make a case about Puka, too. I don't think, especially in a year where the quarterback play didn't necessarily blow you away, that you wonder about the skill guys. But the odds are telling us right now it'll go to Drake May, and I'm not sure if that's right, but it seems that's the direction it's headed in.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think Smith and Jigba would be a great option as well, because not really quietly now because the Seahawks are so damn good, but becoming one of the top receivers in the league. Do want to shift back here to the Chiefs in general, and I want to go back to something you said earlier in this segment, which was, I don't view this as a rebuild. It's more of retooling and trying to restructure so you can be a Super Bowl favorite yet again next season. What do you feel has to happen for that to go right? Because it feels like going in the next year, we've talked about this before, Pete, they do not have the luxury of starting slow. Even if Patrick Mahomes is to miss the first couple games of the year, I think people expect them to be a top seed yet again. But what has to happen this offseason for that to happen?
Yeah, I think it starts with the NFL draft. I think their last really good draft came in 2022. 23, you got Rashee Rice. Doesn't seem like any of the other, and Shamari Connor, I suppose, but the other picks were kind of whiffs. You go to the next draft. You did find a guard in Suamataia, but it took a year for him to figure out he wasn't going to be a tackle. Xavier Worthy is in that draft. Wiley suffered an injury, and the jury's still out on him. Jaden Hicks, I felt like, took a step back this year, and that kind of was it for that draft. And then in this latest one, there's so much conversation about a running back. The Chiefs could have really used a running back in those positions where they selected Jalen Royal and Jeff Basta, and we'll see about those guys. But even in what has been meaningless football these past couple of games, they haven't really been playing them. I'm not sure if they really trust those guys. Josh Simmons was a good pick so long as he is able to be available to Kansas City. He really looks like the left tackle of the future. Again, Norman Lott suffered that injury. We'll see on him. The Chiefs are very high on Ashton Gelati. But as far as a wire-to-wire, we had a lot of contributors coming in that draft. You go all the way back to 2022. And so I think it's just drafting as well as you did in 2022. A lot easier said than done. I also think you got to be better with your free agent decisions. Jalen Moore, it was good the Chiefs had Jalen Moore. That was probably their best free agent acquisition. But in terms of Christian Fulton, just not being available, and in terms of Elijah Mitchell never really being able to get on the field, whiffs as well. And so I think it has been an excellent organization. Very hard to do what they've done in building a dynasty and getting to the 5 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. But again, these past couple of years have been a little rough in terms of just complete, really good draft classes. And I feel like if they can nail their draft class, they'd be in a lot better position.
Last one for you here, Pete. Really appreciate your time. I'm going to have to get a prediction from you. It's not going to be that fun of a game to watch. And truthfully, all I'm watching for is what Travis Kelce can do. But still, with all the players that are out, the Chiefs are a 5.5-point favorite in Vegas. We also can point out that the Raiders have a lot of stars out as well. Brock Bowers, also have Max Crosby out. How do you see this one going? Is it going to be an ugly, muddied up 10-6 football game, or do you see the Chiefs actually dominating this one? Because I don't see a way in which the Raiders just steamroll the Chiefs.
No, I think the Chiefs close the season with a win. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be all that pretty. And when you think about the quarterbacks that are in this game with Kenny Pickett and Chris Oladokun, these are the quarterbacks that are in the throwaway preseason game at the end. Like that. There's no other really way to say that. And so, I do think it's ugly, but I just think the Chiefs have enough, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to push them over the edge when you think about no Brock Bowers and you think about who's at quarterback, and then Chris Oladokun should have time to operate. The Chiefs will have enough protection for him, especially without Crosby. And so I have a 19-9 win for Kansas City. Which think about that score, kind of a weird score, but I expect a lot of field goals and a lot of stalled drives. I do think the Chiefs can get there in the end zone. At a certain point, everybody's hoping that that's Travis Kelce, right? Just in case. And so 19-9 Kansas City. Yes, in an ugly game in Vegas.
Pete, thanks so much for your time as always, and enjoy covering the final game of the season.
All right, Jack. Thanks, man.
There he goes. That's Pete Sweeney of the KC Star right here on the program. We'll take a quick break. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, our end of the hour answer. Before Fernando Mendoza, who was the last Indiana quarterback to win a bowl game?
Did they win one with Michael Penix?
No. It's been a little while.
Okay.
1991 Copper Bowl. The Hoosiers knocked off Baylor 24-0 behind the running of Vaughn Dunbar. but the superb quarterback play of one Trent Green.
That was going to be my second guess. And fitting, we talked to Trent earlier in the week, too. The minute I said Michael Penix, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that, and I should have gone with my gut. You can believe me if you want to or not.
Yeah.
But that actually was going to be my second guess. But Fernando Mendoza, Cal transfer, just crushed Alabama.
What a ridiculous story.
I don't love him, going into him, I didn't love him as a draft prospect. Now I kind of do. I feel that he is just a really polished, smooth, very highly intelligent quarterback.
Yeah.
And I feel that if you're the Raiders drafting one, it's going to be a tougher transition, obviously. I think Indiana is far more loaded than people give him credit for. But I feel that if you have someone who is an incredibly smart quarterback and you can build around him, very hard to do with the Raiders' state they're in,
right.
You could have a nice quarterback here. Because there were guys, I didn't like Bo Nix coming out of college. He was an older prospect. Denver gets him. Now they had the pieces. That's what I'm talking about here. And he's been able to make it work. Bo Nix has a chance to have the number 1 seed for the first time in his career coming up by the end of the weekend.
You're going to have to have some things around him.
Yes.
And I don't know that the Raiders are the organization that can do that. So
they need
you'll have a
offensive
nice
line.
running back behind him, but you'll have your quarterback and your running back and a tight end. So there's at least you kind of have the makings of the big three, the triplets, but so much work needs to be done on that offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see, but I do kind of think he'll be the first one taken.
If you're the Raiders, I mean, that just makes you think Max Crosby is gone because they need so much help.
They really do. I didn't expect it to go this poorly for Pete Carroll and his first and perhaps only year in Vegas, but my goodness. I mean, it's going to be a tough football game to watch on Sunday, but I don't believe the Chiefs are going to be, the team that looks a lot worse than the Raiders. I mean, that was a ghastly performance last week against the Giants, who put up 37.
To just get doormatted by a team that you're competing for
the top
with
spot,
the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, but we'll see what version of the Raiders come out to play on Sunday, what version of the Chiefs come out to play. By the way, over on ESPN, Cincinnati and Navy are deadlocked at 7 with a minute to go in the first half.
Who are you rooting for, Kyle?
Who do you think, Kay?
Bearcats. Yeah. Also, some news with Cincinnati. Their former quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, the number 1 portal quarterback. He's got visits to Lubbock for Texas Tech, who definitely is going to need a quarterback, and LSU under Lane Kiffin, looking like he's going to make somewhere between $6 and $7 million. What quarterbacks are going for nowadays in the portal? Going to be very expensive. Those 2 schools can absolutely afford it.
Sounds like he's going to be a Red Raider.
It does to me as well. Here's when those crystal ball predictions will come out. But for us, coming up next, we'll tell you what you need to know.
All right, we flip our one question around. How many Raiders have had 1,000 career receiving yards against the Chiefs? Brought to you by Nick and Jake's.
Hour number 4 of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. For the final time this week, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, filling in for Seren Petro, Kurtis Seaboldt, Kyle Collier here. And we still have one more guest coming up later on in this hour, Mike Sando of The Athletic. Get his thoughts on the NFL postseason, get his thoughts on the NFL draft, the Chiefs, how surprised he is that they are going into the final week of the regular season at 6-10. Can't say he's that surprised, or shouldn't be that surprised, about the Raiders having 2 wins up until this point. I thought they'd be a little bit better, maybe double that win total, but boy, was I wrong.
To a massive 4 wins?
4 wins, yeah. But the Chiefs are going to finish 3rd in the AFC West. The only question is now, where will they be drafting come April? And I know a lot of people, you've got your thoughts. Reuben Bain, David Bailey, Jeremiah Love. We've talked about it all week long. But before we get to Mike Sando, we're going to tell you what you need to know. And the Chiefs have spoken the last couple of days leading into their final game of the regular season.
The last time you'll hear from the players this year.
Yes.
Unless you're in Las Vegas and hear them in the postgame. The last time they're going to stand before the media.
But we did get something a little interesting this week, and maybe it's a sign of what's to come in this game. You got Noel Williams that was at the podium. You had Brashard Smith that was at the podium. The injury report has a couple guys on there that have been every week players. Xavier Worthy has an illness he's been battling, so he's up in the air on if he's going to play on Sunday. Trey Smith is officially out. There was no need to play him whatsoever. He's been just battered and bruised for quite some time now. So expect Mike Caliendo to get the start there. You'll still have Chu Godric at right tackle, and you'll have Esapole starting at left tackle.
And Jeffrey Bassa in front of reporters today as well.
So a bunch of rookies and guys that you want to see out there. And maybe there wasn't a more impressive rookie this season, Kurtis, than Noel Williams out of Cal. I was baffled going into the Denver game based on how he looked against Buffalo. That Noel Williams went from getting 85 to 90% of the snaps, looked good, was physical. He got a couple rookie mistakes, but overall I thought Noel Williams was very impressive against Buffalo and facing a tough quarterback like Josh Allen. But against Denver, it was Christian Fulton getting the
And we'll hear from
there.
Steve Spagnuolo talks a little bit about Noel Williams yesterday. We're going to give you some of the stuff they met yesterday, but nobody was here. So if you haven't heard Spags or Nags or Tobe, you'll hear those.
You'll hear them now. And another guy that we see, or we probably can assume, is going to get a lot of reps on Sundays, Brashard Smith. And I love that Matt Derrick and Pete Sweeney have almost alluded to, maybe he's making a little bit of transition to wide receiver. He was a wide receiver turned running back in college, and then maybe now it's going, back to what it should be, and going from a running back to a wide receiver. But let's kick things off here with Brashard Smith. And Smith was asked where he wants to get better moving forward.
I think I improved on just slowing down. I feel like I played pretty fast, but just slowing down in my head, I feel like I'll be a way better player just slowing everything down in my head and just being confident. I feel like if I'm confident, then I'll be okay. That's about it.
We were talking to Coach earlier this week about, he sees, you play both positions, wide receiver, running back. What do you feel like your future is in the National Football League? More running back, more wide receiver, both?
It doesn't really matter to me. I feel like I'm an athlete. Like I could play anything the coach wants me to play. So just being available also at any position, I feel like that's a plus. And I feel like I don't know, I probably don't have just one name, but it doesn't matter to me. I like making plays.
You haven't been with the same team for a few years now, and you're going to have that luxury. What are some of your goals as you get into this off season?
Just getting bigger, stronger, actually look like a running back, just actually look like a running back, but still play exactly how I play. So that's the biggest thing for me, just gaining weight and keeping my speed.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys that I'm not going to be surprised if he's, of all the rookies we've been discussing for this entire week, is going to get 90% of these snaps. To hear him say, I'm an athlete, whether it's a running back or wide receiver, that to me doesn't scream I'm staying in this spot and I want to, be. It seems that there, behind the scenes, has been this transition to more of a gadget guy, and it's not going to hurt if you have somebody that can be both a wide receiver and a running back. That is the definition of being a gadget guy.
If you have solid guys at both positions that are just running backs and just wide receivers.
Yes.
You can have somebody, but you can't have your running back, your starting running back, be a gadget guy.
No, and if he starts on Sunday, I'd like to see him get anywhere from 10 to 15 carries, but also maybe 4 to 5 targets in the receiving game. Yeah. But moving forward, I'm kind of coming around to the idea of him just moving back to wide receiver where he might be a little bit more comfortable. On the defensive side, Jeff Boss is somebody that we've all been wanting to see get more reps over these final couple of weeks. He got 4, I believe, against the Broncos. 4 snaps. And look, if you can't pick up the scheme, you can't pick up the playbook, then that's more of a player problem. But I also go back to what Sam McDowell said earlier in the week of, you're not really going to know until you put these guys out there. And if you get embarrassed on film, hey, it's a good teaching moment. And maybe Jeff Bossa, in speaking to the media this week, he will get more of those reps. So Bossa was asked what it was like to get snaps with the first team.
Yeah, no, it felt great. It was most definitely a blessing. Coach Daly kind of let me know early on in the week that I was going to go out there and have some opportunities. And I was preparing like I always do, watching a whole bunch of film on the defensive side of the ball and then special teams wise. But relating back to your question, defensively, having the opportunity to be trusted to go out there, knowing that the coach is trusting me and the guys next to me are have trust in me to have the ability to play confidently next to them side by side. So I feel like it was a huge blessing to me, and I didn't take that for granted for sure.
How do you feel like you did?
I feel like I did pretty good. There's one play that I wish I would have had back. Kind of just like it wasn't like a crucial play, but just knowing me for myself, I'm really critical on myself. So I wish I would have just had a better placement of my hands, but that was really it on that one.
We were just talking to Brashard, and he's kind of was a wide receiver running back. Feels like he needs to get a little bit bigger to be running back. You were the kind of tweener sized coming out of college, played both. Do you feel like you need to get bigger? What do you need to do with your body to be more of an everyday linebacker?
Yeah, I think honestly that's going to be something that I ask the coaches, and I think that's also something that going back and looking at my game, I think just maybe adding a couple pounds here and there and changing my body. I think that's most definitely one of my goals heading into this offseason is putting on a little bit more muscle and a little bit more weight, to be able to be an all-down backer like I say I am.
I liked hearing him speak earlier today. He's a very well-spoken guy and, could seem like he could evaluate, his performance pretty well. Some guys you got there and go,
doesn't talk like a rookie.
No,
I thought that was a coach.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Point.
Absolutely.
And you want those high IQ guys on defense. I've always enjoyed listening to Nick Bolton speak. To be the green dot, you have to be highly intelligent. You got to know what's going on at all times.
I have to slow him down a little bit to sometimes understand what he's saying.
Yeah, but he
gives you good stuff.
He'll give you great stuff.
Yeah.
And for Bossa, one of those important parts about staying out there on the field, yes, you got to be physically imposing as a linebacker in the NFL. You got to be really smart. You cannot be fooled by quarterbacks in this league. You can't be fooled by options and play action. And we'll see Sunday he's not going to get a true NFL starting quarterback he's going up against. I believe it's Kenny Pickett, who's been mostly a backup in his career other than starting a few times in Pittsburgh. But to me, if you go out there and you don't make a fool of yourself, hey, I would say job well done to close out the season.
Yeah.
Now, it's also up to the coordinators to put these guys in good spots. Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo both spoke to the media. If Spag's going to have a bunch of young guys out there, it might add some gray to his hair just because you're going to have those teaching moments. The good news is it's the perfect game to have those teaching moments for the young guys. And Spags was asked what this season was on defense for them.
I don't think it went the way any of us wanted to, although I will say I thought there were some really good stretches of defense. I go back to the Indianapolis Colts game where we had those, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 straight 3-and-outs? And there were some games in there we played winning football and helped our team get in a position to win. What was disappointing was, I haven't gone back and reflected on all of it, but there was some end of the game defense that I would have liked to have had back. That if we could have found a way to make one play toward the end of the game, it either would have given our offense the ball back, or we would have found a way to win the game. So that more than anything kind of sticks out. If we can get better at that, I'd be happy.
Bringing out I wouldn't say the emotion. Spags a very highly emotional guy, but bringing to the attention, I should say, end of game defense.
Yeah.
If that isn't the theme of 2025, not being able to get the stop.
End of game defense and end of game offense.
Yes, which I'm sure Matt Nagy's going to be able to talk about as well. It's It's a thing that hurt them from game one on. You can think about the Eagles game too. Right after that, you can think about the other game against Denver, Jacksonville as well. Numerous games where the defense needed one more stop to get the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, and sometimes they did get that stop, and as you pointed out, Curtis, the offense did not go anywhere with the ball, and that Denver game really sticks out to me.
Uncomplimentary football.
Very uncomplimentary football. Want to circle back to Noel Williams, who we did discuss for a few minutes there. I feel he's been the most impressive rookie from this draft class. It would have been Josh Simmons if he stayed healthy, but shoulda, woulda, coulda type stuff. Josh Simmons was good when he was on the field. Noel Williams, I thought, when he got the opportunity, was damn good in the role that he was given. And Spagnuolo was asked what he saw from Williams that made him trust the rookie early on in the season.
Two things. I think he tackles real well. I think he's a physical corner, and we like physical corners. And he's got really good ball skills. We haven't seen that yet in a game because I don't know that the opportunity has come up for him. But I thought he was one of the guys. I think he had a number of interceptions in college. I don't know exactly. Yeah, and I thought it was a pretty good number, and I'm hoping somewhere down the road it'd be nice if it happened this week because turnovers have been tough for us too. That's one area that we know we need to get better at. And I know there were a couple times during games where Drew especially and Leo were punching balls out and they just didn't land in our hands. Nick had a nice play last week. That's what you need, a couple of those, right? Tips and overthrows. But getting back to Noel. It was the tackling, the physicality, and really his ball skills initially, and then of course he had the same growth period that Christian needed in learning the defense and those kind of things. So he's getting there, and I think he played really. If he can stack another game of playing solid, that'd be a good thing for us.
Yeah, and then you're on the high note. That's what you're hoping for with all these rookies and really the team in general. Fat Jack had brought up, nobody on the field, as though we were joking about it. Nobody on the field is going to try to lose this game. You're not tanking. These guys are going to go out there and give it their all. And Noel Williams has a really good chance to maybe make a play and pick off Kenny Pickett or whoever's taking snap for the Raiders this Sunday. That's the nice cherry on top of what has otherwise been a down year overall. But for Noel Williams individually, I think he's been very, very impressive. Jumping over to the offense, earlier Spags was asked about 2025 as a whole. Matt Nagy was as well, and Nagy was asked where the offense is right now and what this year has been for them.
The biggest thing for us that we've been really focusing in on, and this is not just offense as a team, is just win. Do everything we can to win. As an offense, that our part of it is making sure that we understand at this part of the season, going into the final game. It's been a while since we've been in this territory mentally. As you go through the week of the prep stuff and then different players at different positions playing, that sort of thing. So no matter who it is, the one common denominator is we have the same schedule throughout the week with the practices, the same mindset for us of going in, trying to do everything we can to play well and win. Big picture offensively for us is just, I think, all of us understanding that the season didn't go as we wanted to in the end. There was parts of the year in the middle of the season where we felt like, and I think I brought this up to you before, we really felt like we were at a peak level offensively. Unfortunately, it didn't last the whole way through the year, and now here we are at the end of the year playing in this game that is important to us to finish strong. And it's our job to do that, to coach strong, to players to play strong, and then in the end win. And I think, again, the last several games didn't go how we wanted, but we want to finish on a high note.
To finish on a high note, I'd like to see a little bit of explosiveness from guys like Jalen Royals, and then more importantly, a guy we just heard from, Brashard Smith. And Nagy was asked what he's seen from Smith earlier this season.
I'm impressed with Brashard. I think that when we got him in here, it was exciting to know what his ceiling is, and he's got a ways to go yet. But you see the flashes. I mean, you just look at that punt return he had the other day. We see it in practices, things that he does, and hopefully he gets a few more opportunities here coming up in this game, and then as he grows through the offseason. I think the offseason for Brashard will be critical for him to now. It's like all these rookies, when you come into this offense and you get to be able to know, okay, where to line up, and for instance, on the right side or left side in a run and pass. He can play fast. He's a fast player. The next part for him is going to be just working through some of the protection side of it, and as a running back. But it's all right there, and I'm really proud of him, and I think the ceiling is very high for him.
It is, and you're just hoping that we can see what type of potential that he does have. Nagy had talked about the punt return that he had, and Brashard Smith is filling in for Nico Remigio, who, shocker, another Chief has wound up on the injury report and has been. It just feels like every single week somebody new has been on the injury report. But Brashard Smith got some of those reps in the punt return game, so he had the chance to work with Dave Tobe, who has been under fire a little bit this year with some of the special team gaffes. Well, Tobe was asked what this season has been like for his group.
It's been a crazy year, weird year. Just didn't make plays. It seemed like we just couldn't get a game where we made plays to win the game. And I'm just speaking on my end of it. In the past we've done that. A lot of times. And the way we started out, in Brazil. With the fast field goal that we did, that was awesome. That was like, cutting edge, best ever, and then Bucker ends up missing 5 kicks in September, so that kind of, that was like a Debbie Downer right there. 5 of his 8 kicks missed were in September. So it says something. He got off to a bad start, and then, it was always there, like the doubt, is he going to make it? Is he not? And then we had a good string in October and November. And then it popped up again in December, and so that's kind of how the year went for us. We weren't killing it in the return game on either end of it. So we got to just keep getting better, and I'm excited about our young players. I think going forward, we're going to take another step.
All right, there was some Chiefs audio for your need to know. Coming up next, we'll talk with Mike Sando of The Athletic on the program.